Is that the cosmic octopus that Rob Stone talks about?
It's completely possible. Every message I send goes through SMS, Facebook, Twitter, OnlyFans, Instagram, TikTok, Truth. Just pick that one. It's great. Everybody just needs, we hit everything.
Nice.
Oh, well. This is episode 6 of CornStars, which is brought to you by the awesome folks at Silent Hill Reptiles. JT and Mindy are producing some incredible stuff. Check them out. May be getting some stuff from them. Space is the issue. Like, there's a ton of stuff that they're producing this year that I would really like, but I don't have anywhere to put it, and I have babies on the way. I know I say that like every episode of every show, but it's the truth. You can't be like Jake and just have half an empty rack just chilling and hanging out.
Look, I'm sorry. I plan ahead because I've got literally from between these two people on the screen right now, that rack's probably going to be filled this year. And
I'm just saying, I just don't.
It's got to be there. I plan ahead, unlike some people, apparently.
He planned ahead with the incubator when he got those popcorn eggs.
Yeah, I did.
By using mine.
Exactly. I planned ahead on using yours.
No. So normally we do THP, but figured it'd be a good CornStars week because, Chris was like, hey. So we have Chris Paint Shab, obviously.
Paint Shab.
Shut up. Paint Shab.
We just went over this.
Of Badlands Herpetoculture, who is the normal CornStars host. And then we're joined this week by Chris Montross of Darkhorse Herpetoculture. And so we were like two people that we talk about a lot. It's like, Jake, if you're not doing anything Thursdays, it's not a THP night. It's CornStars night, which means no Nerodia. And here he is. We sit down for 30 seconds, and what do we start talking about? Nerodia.
Yeah.
I will give him that. So I'm still working on editing that video of the collection. It's like an hour long.
For real?
Yes.
Oh,
and so I'm like going through it. I'm like, it's killing me. I'm only like a quarter of the way finished, like with editing it. It's rough, but
jeez.
Huh? I'm good.
I'm good.
Seeing his water snakes and stuff in person, especially the Citrus Florida ones that are the darker ones.
Yeah, the citruses are the.
I do like
ones.
those. They're all cool.
Those are also super cool because they're really just like interactive. Like they just like kind of come on out and see you and hang out. And
they're the boppet of snakes.
Yeah, they come out and they like just chill on my knee, man. They're the only ones that are calm. Right. They're the only calm ones, so I enjoy them. Thank you.
Because they're Floridas. That's why.
Yeah.
It's the only thing in Florida that is calm.
My Dixies aren't terrible. My male is kind of psychotic because he's still really small compared to the female.
Dixies are pretty shy.
It was less than 3 minutes, and we're talking about Nerodia.
I figured once again it's gonna happen regardless. So let's just go
you
ahead.
brought it up. You're the one who brought this up. All right.
I see a banner with a red mark across CornStars and just says Nerodia File Hour.
Yes.
Nerodia Files. Yeah, that's a good one.
I love it. Can I ask Chris Montross one question about Nerodia before we really get right?
I will allow it.
One question. Okay, with male Dixies, do they grow slower than the females?
Oh, all males do in general, but yeah, definitely Dixies for sure.
Okay, because my Ponchatulas from you are about at the same level, but my male is like dwarfing my female at this point. And
that happens. Sometimes you get that, but like Florida's, like my Jessops, Dixies, and even the Hendries, the males are like always like at least half smaller, at least.
Okay,
at
that
least
makes you feel better because he doesn't look skinny. He doesn't look skinny, but he looks tiny. So I was
they don't eat as much, they don't gorge.
Okay,
and they just don't have the growth rate because they don't have to reproduce.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Okay, that's it. That's all I've got.
All right. Silent Hill Reptiles, check them out. They are actually going to be putting up some new stuff that's available here, I think. The 4th or the 6th, maybe?
June 4th, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that they're going to be posting that on their website. I'm very excited to see what they're going to be putting up because I know they've been hatching out a ton of stuff. I don't know exactly what they got cooking or what they'll have posted, so we shall see. And then blackboxcages.com. So we just put out a video on the YouTube channel showing off Jake's black box stuff.
You uploaded
and how
that?
Yeah, that one is up.
Okay, cool.
He doesn't watch our YouTube channel.
You didn't tell me it was up. All right, I'm a busy guy. You gotta be like, yo, the black box video is up, and I'd be like, word, and I go watch it.
He watches all of my OnlyFans videos, so
I was
You're
gonna
goddamn
say.
right, I do, and I pay for those.
Oh,
What?
are you my silent tipper, my man? You know what I mean?
It's called silent for a reason.
It's anonymous. So
Anyways.
we showed off his black box racks and cages.
Yeah.
Feedback from that was pretty good. There was a couple people that the shim idea that you had, where you have the other half of the shim or other part of the shim in like the back.
Mhm.
Our buddy Joe Rosa was like, Jake just solved a problem I've been having for years within like 5 minutes of the video, and I was like, oh, perfect. Good.
Sweet. Good to know. That makes me feel great. Yeah, because I felt very accomplished when I did that. I'm not gonna lie. I felt very, very smart. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. So check that out. Check out BlackBox, Facebook, Instagram, blackboxcages.com. And we are here to talk about some corn snakes and some emoryi. But what is happening in Texas there? How's the season looking?
Well, so far we have Jani that have hatched. Got 6 beautiful babies, came out all strong looking, all fussy and hissy like they're supposed to be. And they've already started going into sheds, so we'll be able to start sexing those, get them set up and fed and off to new homes soon. Man, just about everything I wanted to go this year is gone. I've got Alterna eggs on the ground, 4 or 5 clutches of corns. The Chinese beauties are probably 20 days away from hatching. Black pines laid the other day. Got 5 beautiful eggs out of the black pines. Northern pines are right on the cusp of laying. She's right there. And she's full of eggs, so I'm fingers crossed those are good. And then I think I've got 1 more Alterna and maybe 1 more corn snake that might be going late. And that's it for my season. And it's just hatching and taking care of babies and garg eggs and probably some Chinese cave gecko eggs and some Coleonyx. I paired up some brevis last weekend, so we'll get the little Coleonyx babies going. And yeah, it's been good. Been an awkwardly hot year. Really.
Oh, there goes Chris again.
So bad that his collection hurt him and kicked him out.
Yep.
It's that fancy microphone he's got.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Oh yeah.
I'm back.
Oh, and he's back. He's taking a sip of his beer. Like, God damn.
Sorry, I bumped my phone.
What about you guys? How y'all doing up in the South Carolinas?
It's so weird when somebody says up in South Carolina to me. I'm so
It's
used
like
to saying up.
really far north.
So I got the 2 clutches of corn eggs cooking. I got a lot from my pied blood reds, but she just shed like literally today. I came like this morning, she hadn't shed, and then I came home from work and she had shed, and I don't know if it's a prelay or not. She doesn't really look gravid. So we'll see. And then the Beaufort County girl to my darker Ladies Island male, they're both in shed as well. I haven't really gotten anything out of them, so I don't know what's going on there. And Baird's clutches. So, yeah. Other than that, just hurry up and wait now is the for stuff to start hatching.
Yeah, that fun endless wait.
Yep. Chris, what do you got going on?
Everything. Too much.
No, it was a little stupid question. It's like, of course.
How silly of you.
I don't know, man. I've most of my season's about done at this point, I think. I may have a couple double clutches still left to pop from some of the last ones that laid, like the Black Rats and Everglades, and trying to look at my cages to kind of get a remembrance of. Yeah, that's probably it. There's 1 or 2 others that were like maybe gonna go, and maybe there's still a window for them to drop, like some yellows from North Carolina, and other than that, it's really just a few gravid waters left to drop, some first-time females, and I think that's about it. Still have a handful of clutches still cooking, about 10 eggs 10 clutches of eggs still cooking at the moment.
God.
Most of the stuff is hatched and getting started. Some have already left, and I'm in midst of baby season.
That's awesome.
Yeah, right in the thick of it.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm realizing I already need to start putting money to the side because your stuff is hatching, and I'm like, fuck. I just spent all my money moving into a house. Now I have to resave again in a very fast amount of time.
Yeah, it's been a good year. Like most of the stuff is like, getting snatched up, grabbed, spoken for as soon as they're hitting the ground. So, except for some of the stuff that, I had multiple litters of, and so once those last ones get going and feeding them, I'll be able to post those up. But a lot of stuff is got names written on top of their containers already, so pretty grateful for that.
Good place to be in, yeah.
Yeah, it seems to just work out that way. I'm very, very grateful for it. I assure you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, you want to do a maybe quick introduction as to who and why you are so involved in locality projects?
How you became everyone's dealer?
Yeah, you're our locality dealer.
Bow to the horse.
The dealer of derpy colubrids, that sort of thing. Stuff that they're not ball pythons. I can't help it. I'm sorry. No, I don't know. I think for me, it's just, I've kind of worked with a little bit of everything over the years, especially having been in the zoo profession for many years, that like I kind of fell back into working with stuff that relates to me spending time in the woods and in the field growing up, and still to this day that, there's a lot of cool natural variety out there that I don't have to necessarily just go for the most colorful, modified through captive breeding sort of stuff, if I don't want to, and so I tend to find that working with a lot of these rats and waters and few kings that, there's a whole lot of variety if you just look across the range for these guys, and that just fascinates me not having to go elsewhere. And it seems to be like a, kind of something overlooked, so to speak. I can go herping in one area and see a rat snake that looks one way, and go to another area and they look completely different, and it's no more than a couple hours apart at most.
Yeah.
So it kind of keeps a level of fascination for me in it, and that being able to compare the different habitats with phenotypes and all that kind of stuff. Some areas vary a lot more within itself, and other areas are pretty stable within that area. So it's, I don't know, keeps me interested if nothing else.
Absolutely. So, on this show, we're going to be kind of focusing on the Guttatus complex. A lot of people lump emoryi and Guttatus into the same pool, and so corns can range, I believe, from up as north as New Jersey down to the southern tip of Florida, and emoryi has fingers all the way over into New Mexico and up into Colorado as well.
Utah.
Oh, that's right. They go all the way up into Utah.
Yep.
So this is a wide-ranging species that physically, as far as shape, it's very similar. There's some size differentiations depending on locality, but it's kind of neat. This complex that is passed over very often as a locality phenotype animal actually has a huge spread.
Yeah. It's amazing, comparing stuff from all the way over in Utah and New Mexico down to Key West and up to the two spots in Kentucky. It's all over the place, man. It's all over the place, from lowlands to highlands. It's crazy to see the variability, not just phenotype, but even body structure. Yeah. These guys, obviously you see a bit of a body structure from east to west, as you get from those arid lands out your direction and farther west compared to these hot, humid forests out here in the east. But just, whether you're in the Appalachian foothills or the Keys or South Carolina low country, there's a huge variability in these guys. That just, I don't know, for me, just keeps it interesting.
Yeah, it's a really intricate complex that again it gets glossed over a lot because of the corn morph market, of course. And then even into emoryi as a pretty cult following of morphs and stuff in there.
Yeah.
But it's, man, if somebody really sat and picked out snakes from each part of each of these states, I think a lot of people would be really surprised as to what they look like. Just I mean, it straight up just looks. It's really neat. Kind of in that sense, what I think we even talked. You're not currently housing too many now, but what locality Guttatus complex animals are you housing or have you housed before?
At the moment, I've got mostly Eastern Range stuff in my collection in my room at the moment. I've got a couple Keys localities, North Key Largo, and some old Big Pine Key specimens. I think we're out to F3 on those. OKT Hunt Club stuff. I've got some from the South Mountains Range in North Carolina. I did have some Horry County, the Myrtle Beaches, but I decided to make room for some other stuff and move those out a year or two ago. And they've been doing well with the guy that got them. I wrote this stuff down so I remember, because even looking around my room, I'll blindly miss over stuff. Obviously, Slawinski has got the Natchitoches Parish ones from the eastern part of the range, which I really like those Louisiana specimens a little better than some of the Texas ones. They tend to get a little bit lighter as you get more into that emoryi range, and that mahogany color that these Louisiana animals have. They're just mind-blowing. The first time I got to see them.
Dude, they're so pretty. That burnt umber kind of.
I mean, just being aware of them over the years, and then I finally got to see them the first time when I went and visited my good friend Bill that I work with a lot of my rat snake projects with. And when I saw him the first time, I just looked at him. I was like, this is the coolest thing you have. This is the coolest thing I've seen in a long time. And, and in general, a lot of people may just consider it an ugly animal. And I can't argue that to an extent when you compare it to, a nice OKT or even a lot of the ones in Florida and stuff like that. I mean, they don't have the bright colors and stuff like that, that you see in some parts of the range for this group of snakes. But man, there's just something different about them that just really struck me when I first saw them. And I don't know if it's maybe not 10 years. I've probably been working them 7 or 8 now, maybe something like that. So really, really cool looking at it.
They're exceptional specimens. And I think you're right. They do. I think Slawinski eye in general has kind of been glossed over in the hobby. A little later we'll get on into talks taxonomy and some of the changes they've kind of gone through inherently with that. But just regardless, it's kind of off spectrum for a lot of things, regardless whether it's locality people or morph people. And I think it's really neat that you're working specifically with just that locality, and anybody working with Slawinski eye at all. It's just really.
I mean, most of the time when I've seen them over the years of anybody actually putting any effort into producing them, it's always been those 1 or 2 Texas morphs that have made it into culture. The silverleaf and there's a black one too. I don't know.
There's an anary.
Yeah. I don't even know that I've even seen too much of that. I've seen lots of pictures of the silverleafs and stuff, but I know there's at least a couple of them out there that kind of float around on. Yeah. Kind of low key more than anything. I don't know if they just haven't become popular for whatever reason, or I don't know, but they just.
I've got a group of them, of silverleaf and then some het anaries, and it's kind of interesting. Anytime I talk about them or post them, people are like, wait, what are those? What morph corn is that? And I'm like, well, it's Slawinski eye and it's this other thing, and if you even took mine that are just hets and compared them to the locality ones you're working with, I think you have a lot more handsome specimen.
I mean, the Texas animals have their own appreciation, or I've seen photos people have sent me along the way that, is this a Lindheimer eye, or is this, what is this? And I'm like, no, man, you got a little Slawinski there, a little baby,
Yeah.
And, they're, I can tell they're different. I can tell that it's from farther west of the range, but it's still a cool animal that's been kind of, like you said, glossed over for a long time. It's just an integrate for a long time, and a lot of folks still consider him that, and it's fine, whatever. That make no difference to me. No. I mean, it's a cool animal, and if you just, different parts of the range within that species or whatever subspecies, where you're at with that, they're still really cool animals.
Oh yeah. I think we paused on the Slawinski eye, but even in moving west, you've got a meal morum, an emoryi, and then emoryi intermontane, I believe is the right way to say that. I may be
the Intermontana, I think, was the way it was originally written.
Yeah,
as when it was the Lafe Gutata. Mm-hmm. Now it doesn't really matter because nobody wants to recognize it anymore anyway. So, it is. We just whatever we call it.
Yeah,
Intermontane rat, Intermontana, whatever. As long as we put something like that, then people understand we're talking about the ones on the western slopes of the Rockies that are isolated off from the plains specimens. Yeah, that sort of thing.
Do you keep any of those, or have you kept those?
I have, yeah. With Bill, he's kind of his big rat snake buff, and he's kept all those and collected his own stock of those. And so I was keeping Intermontana and breeding them, as well as some Alpine Texas stock and
Alpine.
That I'm telling you, man. Like, you guys spend some time out there. You should. Did my thing? No, my thing didn't go away. Just the screen changed. Is that Jake? Okay. I just thought something happened when the screen changed there. It's for you guys to get, like, especially you, Chris, that get to spend time out west. Check out the Alpine area.
I enjoyed it.
They're different. They're different in that town than they are outside the rest of the way, and that was the main reason when Bill wanted to just get some emoryi for himself to work with. He picked that area because they're different looking right there. And when I looked at the geography, it looked like it was maybe kind of sitting up on a little bit of a plateau and kind of isolated off from the surrounding kind of area. But my management in my room, I've struggled over the years with some of these western, more arid species. They just hate my humidity.
Yeah.
And so for the time being, I'm not keeping them in long-term periods. May have them for a handful of months or whatever, maybe even a year period. But some of those guys just they hate my humidity. And for a while, I wasn't kind of monitoring it. And when I bought a bunch of probes to put all around my room to kind of see what my room was doing, I was like, oh yeah, no wonder you guys hate this. This is terrible in the summer, midsummer. I mean, in the wintertime, it's fine in here. I mean, I got 20 to 30% humidity, but in the summertime, I'm literally like grateful if it's only 80,
Yeah.
And so it's just, those guys they don't tolerate it. They get respiratory issues and don't tolerate any of that. So at the moment, I'm not working with a lot of those guys, at least long term. I don't have any breeders of those. Bill's still messing around with those at the moment, and once in a while I'll get the litter, I'll raise them up for a while, and he'll take some of them back or whatever we end up doing at different times. Yeah,
absolutely. That you're kind of hitting on that humidity issues with those western animals. It's a good time to kind of peek on, like, maybe a comprehensive idea of, depending on range, where they're at, the care for these animals, how you do it, or what differences maybe you see.
I think just like on the whole, a lot of it just kind of depends on where everybody lives, because how I can keep my animals, how I manage my animals is different than maybe how you do, or somebody in Minnesota, or somebody in Seattle, or, I'm sure Yasser manages his animals up there completely different than some of us in the Southeast or somebody in Arizona, just because, between being able to use focalized heat and choosing to use focalized heat, or using ambient, using heat through a window, at certain times of the year, relying strictly off AC, and, different sort of things that makes management choices very different, and like this year, I'm actually trying to manage my humidity differently this year. I'm playing with some things between using my window, managing the AC from the house a little bit to try to keep my humidity low, and have a dehumidifier in my room to try to bring my humidity down, because it's only going to benefit everybody regardless of what part of the range they're from anyways, because humidity just it's moisture, it's funguses and molds. It causes issues that a lot of us and don't really have the ability to evaluate or understand. So my goal essentially is just the summer times now going forward is trying to figure out what it takes based on the way I keep my animals to get it down. And until then, I won't mess with any of those western rat species, for any long term, at least, especially during the summer months, because it's just they don't like it. They don't like it at all. So, but most people, all the red rat complex, they're pretty hardy and pretty tolerant of how most of us all kind of keep our stuff, whether you're just keeping them in racks, you're keeping them in cages, doing displays, you want to go bioactive, whatever, most of them are pretty hardy and tolerant of most of how we keep them, and just keeping in mind just great ventilation for any of our herps. That, well, at least our temperate colubrids. I mean, you don't really necessarily want that with your rainbows and your bloods and some of your other more tropical species that really have to have that. But colubrids really thrive. And when I kind of started doing mine, doing a lot of these guys years ago, is I really took a page from what is in Dusty Rhodes' book, which Chris and you and I were just talking about the other day, is basing on the husbandry practices in that book for keeping subox, and just basically applying it to how I do all my animals, because Merodia really have to have it as well, and it's only going to benefit everybody else. Sure. Just ventilation. I mean, it's just, we're keeping them in closed up environments. So, getting that stagnant air out of there, getting fecal odors and stuff like that out of there. They poop in the water bowls, while you're at work. The more ventilation you got, the better it's going to be for everybody, So, those kind of things are, I think, super important, no matter kind of which style of husbandry you really, kind of go with.
I think you're completely right. And, we're talking about Guttatus and the like, but with a lot of these North American colubrids, there's three things that I see consistently help. That's ventilation, a clean environment. Get that ammonia smell out of there. Pituophis, crap bigger than my Chihuahua. Cleanliness, and then clean water, constant clean water. Talk about animals that have snake-wise some of the highest metabolisms we're going to be encountering in any of these non-venomous, non-racer type animals. And when they need water, they need clean, healthy water to get them through their system. And I use distilled water with a lot of things. I try my hardest to not use distilled water with snakes. I think there's minerals and benefits to using real good clean water that's not been distilled or deionized. But yeah, I mean, we cannot hit on that as a group more. It's such an important thing.
Yeah.
That kind of trifecta.
Yeah, and those kind of, some of those focuses are always like, because we all have our herp areas set up certain ways that work for us for all the reasons of cost, ease of cleaning, choices of how we like things to look, but there's, but for me, it's like, I'm always trying to improve on those few key things. Like if I feel that like I'm not doing good enough, which is always, we're always second guessing what we're all doing.
Of course.
It's always like, I'm tired. I really don't want to do this, but God, these cages really just need to at least minimally just have substrate changed out.
Yeah.
And that's going to take 15 minutes or more for each one of them, and it's just got to buckle down, and make it happen,
Yeah. That, coming back from a herp trip, maybe you've been gone for 4 or 5 days.
Yep.
They need clean water. Whether you fed them before and they pooped or not, they need clean water, and you got to get out there and do it. Yeah.
And for stuff like that, like when I take like trips, like I just did just a couple weeks ago, I went up to Philly for like 4 or 5 days. Like when I go down to Daytona to see you guys, like I plan that a couple weeks ahead of time, and I fast my animals before I go, so that there is as little fecal dropping while I'm gone as I can get away with, because it's just like, water snakes are going to do nothing but crap in a water bowl on me. The half rat snakes are going to just go up to the front of the cages and poop but if I fast them, then that whole process is drastically reduced. And when I come home, it's, aside from not having a whole lot of work to do in that capacity, I can walk into my room, smells fine. They're going to poop. There's enough animals here that some of these bigger guys, it's going to happen, but it's not like, like I fed 4 days before and the room is an absolute, like I'm walking into a rodent room or something.
Yeah.
So, just trying to do some of that whenever I take trips. I'll do it, like I said, when I go down to see you guys in a couple of months, it's going to be the same thing. I plan that out ahead of time, make sure my last meals are done, enough time for them to pass stools before I leave, and hopefully it's not a nightmare when I come home. And usually if I plan right, it's not.
I was explaining to somebody recently with rat snakes, corn snakes, Pituophis, not so much king snakes. King snakes are a little weird in what I'm about to kind of say. I'm more worried about a big Pituophis pooping while I'm gone than I am about it laying eggs if I'm gone for that 3, 4, 5 days, because I know they're going to lay their eggs in their egg box, and that egg box is set up with the kind of maintained humidity.
Yep. Yeah, I'm the same way. Like I knew stuff was going to happen while I was gone in Philly for the 4 or 5 days.
Yeah,
and Kim was always just like, "Do I need to check on anything?" It's like, "Nope, everything will be fine."
It's fine.
You know, stuff was pipping before I left. Stuff was laid while I was gone, but I have yet to ever have a snake not lay in the nest box because I set my nest boxes up in a way that these guys are always happy with them.
Yeah.
You know, they never go under. They never lay them somewhere else. They always put their eggs in the boxes, and so I don't. Sure, it's on my mind. Like I don't want it to go. Like there's always
of course.
Sign it's somebody to go and drop their egg somewhere else. But I generally have overall dry cage. You know, that nice, moist, dark, concealed, secure nest box is the go-to place.
Yeah, especially when you've got that ventilation moving good. They know that, okay, I've got ventilation all around here. I have smells, I have movement, and then now you have this little isolated egg
and
nest box.
And my nest boxes with anything that's going to maybe even breed with at least with the egg layers and stuff, they've got nest boxes all year round with them.
Yeah.
Like I always have them in with them because some of them are going to double clutch, and I cohab most of all my stuff. And so some of these guys, they're going to go and reproduce at that set time after cooling and cycling. And other ones are going to be like, let me catch up with you guys in like 4 or 5 months. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. So I'm always on the ready. Or if they're going to double clutch and I hadn't really noticed that they've swollen back up, and I'm just thinking it's just from feeding them up, and I haven't taken the time to actually go through and palpate them, I don't have to worry about it. Like they're going to go put it where it belongs.
Yeah,
I don't have to concern myself with it.
My Everglades that I got from you a couple years ago are kind of like that. They just started breeding, which they bred late last year, and I cohab them year round, and I cool them kind of through the natural cooling of my room. And they have a nest box. They actually have a cool side nest box and a hot side nest box just year round. That way, because even when she was gravid last year, I couldn't tell. They have relatively small eggs.
Yellows are tough to tell a lot of times. They have smaller eggs, small babies, most of the time, not all the time. Gulf hammocks kind of fit into that same boat. They tend to drop smaller eggs, and I actually struggle with some of my bigger like yellows and Gulf hammocks to actually tell that they're gravid because the eggs are small. Like Gulf hammock babies are tiny, and so these bigger, heavy-bodied Obsoleta snakes just hide those eggs really well, and anything related to those yellows that really seems to be the case. So they've always got something in there. I don't have to sweat it, if I just happen to not catch these guys visually being gravid. So it works out pretty well.
So on your Guttatus stuff, do you cohab them as well?
Yeah. And there was another locality I forgot to mention. I do have some Devil's Gardens. I do have a pair of F2 aneries that I impulse got Daytona a couple years ago. I don't think the guy wanted to sell them to me after I grilled him for like 20 minutes before I was willing to buy them. But I got all I needed to know that they were legit and how they came out from wild animals. And so I caved and got some. But but most of my guys are cohabbed once they're at least sexually mature. I did a little bit more cohabbing with younger ones, and I've backed off of that a little bit for a while and trying to compare notes from past to present. And the adults generally, as long as everybody's eating well and tolerating each other, they all stay together in whatever breeding group, pairs or trios, whatever that I decided to do with.
I'm going to kind of take a little caveat or a little side turn on what you were talking about, your Devil's Garden aneries. One thing that's really important with locality animals, and I think this is true on any locality breeders, we want to make sure, once we're specifying the locality of an animal, we've broken down beyond even taxonomy, current taxonomy, past taxonomy. Now we're breaking it down to this kind of small niche section of what we want to see specimens look like. And now localities can have different phenotypes, and we see that through a lot of these species, even in the emoryi and Guttatus complex stuff. But getting them from a good breeder, Chris, one of the reasons we've worked with you so much is because we know that you can puke the lineage out immediately on most of these things.
Yes.
And you'll see a lot of these animals for sale. you'll see a lot of animals for sale, whether it be any of our online platforms where stuff's sold, and message the person you're buying them from and get a little bit of lineage information on them. Anybody that's working with locality animals will really actually truly producing locality animals will be happy to tell you the background of those animals. And that's really
unless they're just shady.
And that's the thing. You get online, you find a Devil's Garden animal like you're talking about, Chris. Somebody's got they're selling some Devil's Garden anaries, and you ask them those questions. Hey, these are Devil's Garden anaries. We can find a lot of anaries that are going to kind of fit that phenotype. Really dark, especially as babies. They haven't gone through ontogenetic change. They're all going to have these dark saddles, very light base. And I could say, hey, maybe I tacked another $15, $25 on these because they're Devil's Garden animals. They're F2s also. And you message me and, hey, can I get a little bit more information on those? It sounds like you produced them. If you didn't produce them, who did? Are they F1s? Are they F2s? Who collected the parents? If you didn't collect the parents, where'd you get? And then you find out they came from, a well-named breeder, a Soderbergh or one of these. And I'm not saying that he produces those, but the people that have known to be working with these animals for a long time, you're in the gold. But if you message one of these guys and I don't know, they're just this, maybe. Yeah. I'm not saying don't buy those animals because if you want those animals in your collection, if you trust that breeder,
even with that, when I bought that they were a yearling-ish pair. Like honestly, I don't remember the guy's name. Like I should have taken his business card and I didn't, but I grilled him hard enough that I got enough information to know that they were legit. And his adults were F1s. They came after the gravid female, and his adults were all anaries. They came, the whole litter. I got enough out of it that like I normally don't buy animals at Daytona and I don't go to other shows just because the show generally doesn't fit my niche of acquiring animals. And even though I go and buy books. I know
that there's a show that actually does.
No, there isn't. There's not. But it's just not my general avenue for acquiring animals. But like I'd wanted some, and they were a good price, and the animals looked good, and so I said, screw it, I'm going to get it, take a chance, and and I'll get some other animals if I stick with the project down the road, as far as breeding them and hanging out with them. I'll get some other blood either by being down there or through somebody I know that's collected their own stock to add some fresh blood to the gene pool eventually. But I'm still not there yet, so they may go this year, but female's pretty young and small size, so I don't know that. I doubt they'll go this year. If so, they'll give me like 4 eggs,
Yeah. That's
she,
one of those. Oh, go ahead.
She was a bit of a dinker for the first kind of year and a half, like just kind of a lazy, nonchalant feeder. But then I cooled him this year, and then she like came out of it, and she's like, "Oh, this is a great idea. Let me go ahead and do this." And now she's like, it just So who knows? Maybe next year, maybe later this year. We'll see what happens with them.
Absolutely. And while people are out there trying to acquire locality animals, you'll see a lot of stuff get posted on Facebook. Chris does a good job of that in locality rat snake forums. We're not allowed to sell animals on Facebook, and we understand why, and there's rules we have to follow. But don't be afraid to reach out to people. I've talked to people that are like, oh, I know this guy works with this, and I wanted to message him, but I just don't want to bug him. And it's like, I'm literally sitting on the toilet posting pictures of snakes. Please bug me, right? Like
it's the only reason we're posting pictures. Literally, we're wanting other people. I mean, that's literally what I do. I mean, when I'm going through cleaning cages and stuff, I'm like, damn, that snake looks good. Take some pictures. Some pictures. Have to take pictures of that for a while. Some of it's just documentation for myself to like have photos of these guys going through their changes and how they look at that particular year, time of the year, whatever the case may be. But at the same time, like those animals excite me, and I want to find other people that they excite too. They go, damn, that's cool. I like that. It may only be 5 people in the whole planet that thinks my
2 of them are right here.
Yeah, my silly yellow rats are some odd locality of water snake that I'm fascinated by and think is great for whatever stinking reason. But there is other people out there that do find that passion. That's one reason why I work with my buddy Bill on some of our rat snake projects, because he and I have the same kind of obsessive level about enjoying things in their natural form as much as possible. And that's not to say I don't like morphs, and I actually have quite a few. But in the locality fashion at the moment.
I mean, if you're worried about people bugging you about that, then they just, you shouldn't be selling snakes anyways.
Yeah,
it's like
I mean,
you're literally asking
should be on social media.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that easy. Like it's the only reason I'm even on social media. Period.
Well, you're messaging people too. It's not like you're calling them at midnight and like, hey man,
right.
It's like, okay, I'll get it in the morning. I'm about to go to bed. I'll see it. It's there first thing in the morning. I'll respond. It's just like, meh. But I get it. I mean, I've been there before where it's like you're sort of intimidated by someone, especially some of the chondro guys and stuff. It's like it's a little, I guess intimidating.
There's a lot of different personalities in the herp field. I mean, there's in herpetoculture, I should say. I mean, it's very evident, at going to any of the bigger shows like Daytona, and I'm sure, Tinley enough, others. You go to some of those shows, and there's some characters.
I was nervous as shit the first day I messaged Jake.
I messaged you first.
Well, if you had sent him anything other than a dick pic, it would have been easier. But you got to start where you can.
Swing for the fences. If you don't come out and just shoot for the moon right off the bat, then
hey, if you miss the moon, you'll reach the stars, Justin. Don't forget that.
The sun's right behind it somewhere.
Trust me, I saw the moon. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Poor Jake. You catch so much hell, man.
Yeah.
Wrapping up on that idea of messaging people, I will admit, and I've been a culprit of this as well. Just because we're saying that it's just fine, reach out, talk to people, bug them, mess up. You're not always going to get the answer you want, nor the attitude you want, and that's the cool thing about social media. Fuck them. You know what I mean? Like if you reach out to somebody with some kind of a comprehensive idea of what you may be interested in, and just asking, and you maybe don't get the best response you get, which I've probably, like I said, been culprit of myself. Working, doing a turnaround or something, and somebody messages me, and I'm just like, hey, not right now. Maybe I'd never heard back from that person again.
And then they go and say, man, that Chris Page was a dick.
Oh, so many people say that. But yeah, that's.
I mean, I literally tell people to bug me when they want something that I'm got egg from or maybe going to produce. I'm like, look, I get like a couple people a day message me asking me about this or that. Like, I can't keep up with it. I tried doing lists years ago and found it extremely huge waste of time. Like, just bug me. Watch my posts and bug me. You bug me, you have the best chance of actually getting what you want if I'm producing it, because I can't keep up with all these different people asking me for 5,000 different things. It's just impossible.
Message Montross that much because all I ever envision is him just in his room, like in the lab, just hyper focused on all the things and taking all the pictures of all the clutches and stuff he's got to keep up with, and
it's a lot.
Like
it's a lot. It's a lot.
I swear, every time I find a rat snake or a Nerodia, I message him, regardless. I don't even care. Look what the fuck I found.
That's good. I appreciate that. I like that. It gets me excited because I'm going like, damn, now I need to go down there and see some down there.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, that's, we'll kind of.
If it wasn't already an 11-hour drive just to Houston, much less all the hell way down in the bottom of the earth where you live.
Yeah. We're going to, here in a second, we're going to jump into field herping and kind of like how we've collected these animals and how we find them. But before that, I kind of actually wanted to hit on we talk a little bit about taxonomy, and we kind of talked a little bit on that on the range of these animals. God damn, how good did it feel for mealworm to come back to this world? I mean,
that felt great. But with that, at the same time, there was a letdown that Inner Montana didn't get hung up on the post.
Yeah, and that was 2021. That was last year, I believe, in March when that they were all reclassified.
Yeah.
Mealworms are rude.
my personal story on that is me and Zach have gone back and forth on whether mealworm was a species or a subspecies, or go by the trinomial name and whatnot. And he told me, and when he finishes his book and I get a copy of it, I told him he better sign it with that exact language, and that is you do not get to beat science unless you can prove it with better science. And oh my goodness, the second that paper was published, I was just angry messaging. Look, Zach, we did it. I made it. Because the beautiful thing about him and a lot of these guys is we, regardless of what we think personally, we have the appreciation for the science behind it. So obviously with Obsoleta, there's been a massive change on taxonomy. And we saw that also in the Gutatis complex. We don't have to agree with it, but we're kind of in that. I believe the shirt says obsoleta forever.
Yeah, there you go. That's the best one there is right there.
There's a little bit of a sidestep we have to take and say we don't really get to beat this without better science. And I think that's starting to prove itself out. We're starting to see that better science. Loftman was very correct in the way that he put it, in that it's not actually our decision to make, and that if we want to continue to fulfill these locality lineages, what difference does it make what scientific name we put on it? A Gutatis complex animal from Santa Rosa County is going to be indicative of that county, probably regardless. It's very odd that you would see different phenotypes, or a massive difference of phenotypes in a county. Even though you may be on a split line where on the east side of the county it's a western rat, west side of the county it's a western rat, east side it's an eastern rat, and I know there's situations where that might even happen. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think some of it just comes down to with where we all accept it is what we're comfortable with, what we think makes the most sense. And like, particularly when the paper that came out a little over 20 years ago came out, and nobody really paid attention to it until, unfortunately, it became printed in the Bible of Field Guides. And then so everybody's like, oh, wow, this is what it is now. And then new papers come out this year and last year that says, no, not really. And those make a little bit more sense than the last one. So, you just always just go back to a Lafay obsolete and call it subspecies and be happy with them.
So if we're looking at subspecies and species, corn snakes are Pantherophis guttatus wasn't always just guttatus, right? There were other subspecies. Could you kind of pontificate on that?
No, I mean, one of the cool ones is the rosy rat, pink rat from down in the Keys. As I understand it, is that pretty much was sunk by the time I was getting into herpetoculture in the late 80s, that most of really just the lower Keys was truly considered the Keys rats, although most at this point just kind of consider any of those insular ones down there to be rosies. You've got regular emoryi, you got regular red rats that kind of cover the whole East Coast for the most part. You've got your thorn scrubs that had their own subspecies there for a while and are back again, like a heart attack. The Intermontana was given at least a parentheses subspecies for a while and disappeared, and is, I guess, staying disappeared for now. What else? I guess that's... And then you've got kind of the intergrade, which is where Slowinski is now, that was just considered an intergrade, and that's kind of transformed a little bit over the years between range and going up to species, down to subspecies, and I kind of like it where it's at now. Personally, I kind of think that makes the most sense. When John sent me that paper when it came out, 20 or 21, whenever that one, somewhere in that blurry couple of years of COVID that we can't really remember when shit happened. I liked it. I just immediately read it and was just like, okay, I like that. I don't have any reason to argue with it. Like, I work with Slowinski, and working with them, even though they're a bigger animal and they have a little bit more of a build of a guttatus, like, their temperament is an emoryi's. Like, they sit there, they're chill, you mess with them and they get spazzy, and they just freak out. They just freak out. They get easily upset. And so I'm like, okay, I'm good with that. I don't feel a reason to contest the work that I think that's David Hillis and his team kind of did, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember the paper correctly. That, versus some of the other changes of the past number of years that make everybody just immediately scratch your head and why did that happen? Why? I don't understand.
Yeah,
it doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, these people don't even get to put their names on these animals. Why are you literally making them all the same thing?
Right. Like, there's, and I'm not, I don't have the academic training to argue it. I can respect the opinion of other people that do have that backing and their opinions about how some of those rearrangements of taxonomy have happened and agree with them, when some of these things happen. So, that's most of what I can go with. But for me, it's hard to go and take some of these rearrangements of late and bite into it in wholeheartedness, and that's just from a layman's point of view only.
Yeah.
And again, because I don't have the academic background to do what these guys do.
Yeah,
and to really judge their work from a technical standpoint. I don't have that. Never claim to have it. It's not mine. I can just look at it from a point of view of working with the animals, seeing the animals in the field or both, and going, yeah, I don't know about that.
Well, it's a lot like the NFL draft or college scouting and stuff like that. It's like you're gonna have people that are like, "That's a crap. Like, why would you pick him to be, a linebacker? It's like he's not that good."
Yeah,
it's very similar in that aspect. It's like it comes down to opinion and numbers, I guess, and a weird amalgamation of both.
And again, it's all just like proposed. Any of this is always all proposed stuff. I mean, I know most folks don't jump on board with the rearrangement of the foxes, and that whole complex. Like most people don't care for how that ended up, and I can't argue with them.
Yeah, Jake won't shut up about it.
I can't argue that the work that went into it. I can just go, like, I've worked with some of these animals, and I looked at and read as much as I can and bought more books that I can on field stuff, and go, I'm not sure I buy into that right now. I'm going to stick with what some of these states still call things and how they classify them, and appreciate that for now until somebody can give me a reason to appreciate it maybe a little better.
I think that's kind of one of the neatest things about a locality, maybe not an entire collection, but having locality-specific examples in a collection is you can call by mealmorums that I found in my backyard whatever you want, but I know where they're from and I know what they look like. We could just get down to where this is just called a snake, and this is my, but
it's never going to change what they are. It's never going to change what they are. Like, for a while there, the gray rats were split in half according to the paper that came out 20 years ago, and now it's not split again as of this year, I guess. And so and who knows what next year will bring. We don't know.
Sure.
But like, it was hard to really bite off that, and some of the folks that maybe I respect their opinions of a little bit more kind of looked at the research with an eye that I can't, and said, I don't buy that either. Like, that doesn't make sense. So, and then that's, so we all tend to call things what we do, but as long as I call things by whatever county or area they're from, like, it's never going to ever change, ever.
Yeah.
It's always going to be that. You change the name every year on me. I don't care. It's always going to be that.
It's always going to be a yellow rat or a rosy rat or a.
Right.
This is always going to be a Slowinski. Well, a Kostachy corn, right?
Yep. Exactly.
They used to be called.
It's and they still are. My buddy Bill still calls them Kostachis. That's what he calls them, because it's the forest where his animals where our stock came from. It's in the forest. It's a Kostachy national forest. They're always going to be a Kostachy corn to him, no matter what.
There's this little derivative of upsettedness that happens, especially in the morph world, where people are like, okay, this is and I'm gonna talk about obsolete a little bit on this, but it goes directly into the Guttatus complex. I have a albino black rat, and I'm going to breed it to a Everglades rat, and in the end, I'm not going to sell those as albino black rats, but I'm going to sell them as albino allegahensis or whatever the current taxonomy is. We can see this.
Current taxonomy would put that as a hybrid.
Okay. So, but
Just saying.
Keep going. And that's one of those things. These are all obsoleta complex, or what we look at as obsoleta complex animals. Once we start interbreeding these things, once we start making these cool looking morphs, which they are cool looking and they are great, does it even really matter? Unless it's a locality morph. It's this is an Okatee Hunt Club, Red Zeppelin, or it's a Devil's Garden anary, like you were talking about, hammering down on this person. This person selling those animals. I want to know for sure that these are Devil's Garden anaries, because that's what you wanted.
Yep. If he didn't answer my questions the right way, I wasn't going to buy him. But he answered them in a way that, like, I could tell he raised them, he bred them, he got the animal, the F1 animals that came out of a wild female. Like, he said the right things. that was enough for me. That I felt comfortable that he was not misrepresenting what he had. And he had babies from this year and the year before. You know, he was obviously breeding them. It wasn't something he just bought a bunch to flip. You know.
Yeah. And yeah, so it's kind of interesting, and we need to kind of split that. We have this kind of neat little domesticated puddle of morph animals, and whether it's obsolete complex or Guttatus complex animals, you know, scaleless corn snakes didn't come from corn snakes; it came from emoryi. And but what does that matter, right? Like at that point, when you're looking at these domesticated animals, can you have pure lineage albino emoryi? Yes. Can you have pure lineage albino corn snake? Absolutely. As long as we're not misrepresenting what we're selling or what we're doing with it.
Exactly. Labeling. Yeah. That's, you know, what you call them is really what it comes down to. You know, it's kind of like the corn snakes for sure. Those guys, but like even with like the black rats, the same thing. You've got an area where you've got a range of dark colored snakes across the whole upper Midwest, east out, you know, of animals, and different colors have, you know, recessive genes have shown up across that range, and they're all interbred at this point, and still calling them black rats. But with taxonomy changes, that's changed 2 or 3 times now, and so one minute it's a hybrid, one minute it's a subspecies, one minute like. So, like, are they black rats? Sometimes they're gray rats. It depends on where they're from, and that's, you know, and it comes down to a labeling game and just honestly representing whatever it is you're choosing to breed for whatever reason. And that's each his own. You know, work with whatever you like. Who cares?
If I take an Okiti animal that maybe I know the lineage of, maybe I don't. Maybe, you know, we talk a lot on the show. There's a big difference between locality and phase. There is a true locality to things, and there is a phase to things. And we've labeled it as such. If I take a corn from the westernmost range of corn snakes and I breed it to something that's an easternmost range in the northern section, maybe even go up to a New Jersey or a North Carolina animal, I'm not hybridizing. But if I cross the Mississippi and I breed it to a Slowinski, now I am. And it's kind of one of those things. What do I represent that animal as?
Right.
You know, and it's kind of that agreement we have as hobbyists. What are we going to represent ourselves as? We're not taking obsoleta and pairing it to Guttatus complex. We're not taking cow kings and pairing them to corn snakes, which still kind of mystifies me. But if you do your thing, do your thing. People
out there that love those things, man.
Yeah, and to each their own. But it's that second that we start, you know, and there's all this hatred on hybrids, and I'm not saying I like them, and it's not something I have in my collection forcibly, maybe the best way to say that. But people have this deep-seated, oh man, I just hate it, and it's like, well, not everybody has to love us, but it's our prerogative to love everybody. You know what I mean? You don't have to like me, but I have every ounce of emotion in my brain that I can love you for some reason. And if that's what you like, you go ahead and like it. I don't, and I don't necessarily want that. But just promise me, you know, as a hobbyist, we won't misrepresent these things, and we're gonna be gummy bears in a bag real quick. So that's you know, and that's,
I think it just comes down to a little bit of integrity, like caring about what you're working with and what you're doing, and just being honest with what those animals are. Yeah, you know, more than anything. I mean, a lot of folks just go to buy a pretty animal, and that's great, you know. And if they're going to breed it, well, that's fine too. But just make sure that people know that, you know. You know, I mean, years ago when I was breeding color morphs of red rats back in the early 90s, like, you know, we were just grateful to like have a litter with 3 or 4 colors in it, man. That was magical, you know. Absolutely. And nowadays, like, I can't even keep up with like listening to some of your talks with Hair Hollow and that stuff. Like, I can't keep up with what you guys are even saying because I'm so far removed from the complexity of
it's wild
recessive genes and combos. So like, I can't.
It's
and let's not even talk about like the Florida King complex. That's even worse. Like, that's insane. Like,
that shit doesn't even make sense.
God damn, it doesn't make sense.
You know, I went being good buddies with John Laster. I went down a big rabbit hole of California king snake morphs, and then some of them you'll have like 3 different morphs that are the same morph, but they don't work together. But then there's like het mark. Oh man, and then you start getting into this like old school mentality of, okay, these are morphs, these are also locality morphs, but if you take that locality morph and breed it to this locality morph, you get something totally different. And San Diego gopher snakes have 5 different types. I believe it's 5 different types of albino. Yet it's really just 2 different types. There's a T positive and a T negative. There's just different lines, and they do work together, and they're compatible. And otra vez, man, it's tough. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a rabbit hole I've just of late chosen to stay away from. I dabbled in it a little bit when I was kind of getting back into colubrids and realized like it wasn't for me. Trying to keep ahead of the curve of whatever is newest, and you just can't. Like I'm like I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I'm gonna keep it basic. Work with my basic types. Try to have good representations of those basic types of common snakes and enjoy the hell out of it. You know, that's what it is for me. And trying to chase the newest thing. Now, granted, I'm trying to bring a few locality, recessive genes to culture myself, just out of chance of them coming into my possession. But that's really the only reason. Like I'm not one to go chase it, and invest money into it. Like I've got a couple that I'm working with and hoping they will be established one of these days between obsoletas and I'm trying to look up at the cage and erythrogaster and whatever the hell else I've got in here. Trying to establish a few of those recessive genes, just at least so they're around, because other people are going to appreciate them. I know Chris already really appreciates one of them.
Huge shout out to the.
I know which one that is.
The albino Williams eye. Yeah, those things are doing. They're doing real good. Mine
from last year they're giant. I had the one little dinker that I just hung back, little female that she finally kind of got on board like during the winter, and now she's like eats every time. Like she was a pain in the butt for like the first 6 months, and it's going to take a while for her to actually catch up to the other group, but she's getting there. But even with that, I don't even know if I'm going to have babies from them this year. It doesn't look like. I cooled them, and now they don't want to breed. So I don't know.
Damn it.
The albino, the wild-caught albino may still breed. I haven't talked to Bill lately to see where he's at with stuff this year.
Because he's been traveling. Albino male. The first albino male that ever leaves your collection has to.
I know. Yeah, you have unconditional first dibs. You've already invested in that in that commitment. So you get that. I think at this point, unless I'm really lucky and I'm looking at cages here, it might just be a het from the wild caught female this year. We would have had a nice clutch last year, but the eggs all failed late term for whatever reason. So but my girl, I cooled the pair. I was like, I really need them to breed. I didn't cool them last year and they bred. I cooled them for a short period of time this year, and like I ain't got crap.
One of my
just what it is.
One of my pairs, back on the kind of keeping it in the corn snake realm. I have a female motley, a male. No known hets. I actually think she's just a male motley, and my boy Max is a motley.
Yeah, does that happen? Does that happen?
I have a few snakes that like I literally either know exactly the hets or there's no known hets. It's kind of cool. I try to keep it that way. I don't like surprises.
Come on, man. You don't want to have like 3 little heads pop out and they're like, what the hell's that?
That's going to happen regardless.
They had to Hydra.
So we'll talk about 2 clutches. My caramel Miami phase to caramel Miami phase. They're both masked. They're both het diffused. They're both het cinder. And that's it, I believe. I believe those are from Silent Hill Reptiles.
That's it.
And JT has already messed with, because those snakes, those babies are due to hatch any day. They're on, I think day 60. They're close. And JT was like, hey, look, once they come out, just take good pictures of them after they shed, and I'll help you start identifying them, because they go through an ontogenetic change. So as babies, a lot of these things look damn near the same.
Yep.
It's like, oh, all right. And so, and that's part of the morph game. But back on the breeding, all my corn snakes went. My AML Motley girl to my boy Mac, who sired 3 clutches this year. He's a ultramel, motley, tessera, known het anery, proven het anery actually. And I paired him up, and dude, they locked a million times. And she's gone through 2 sheds, and I actually just paired them back up. They're still locking in nothing. I mean, nothing. And it's like that sometimes. We've got these wild animals in boxes. You can't, you can force them to brumate. You can force them to eat if it's a necessity. There's ways we can do that. We don't like to do it, but it is a possibility. We can force them to go to the vet if there's something potentially dangerous going on. We can force them to have a good shed with little sticky tacks, and we can to some extent almost force them to breed. If you've got a male that's ready to go, he's gonna get her. You cannot force these things to produce viable eggs, and you cannot force those eggs to hatch. You have no control over that. Other than
false. I've seen Jake do it.
Poor Jake.
What?
That's even better response. Totally oblivious.
I've seen it with my own eyes.
I see them pull the eggs.
This year I'm fortunate. All my Cutatus stuff that I tried to breed, everybody bred this year. I mean, it wasn't that many of them, but everything laid that I tried to from that group. And last year I didn't have that luck, oddly. Like some of my OKTs who had bred the year before didn't breed last year. No reason why. Like they just didn't. And then they bred this year. Like I'm like, I don't get it. Like you guys don't make any damn sense. And one of them double clutched. Like the clutch is due to hatch any minute. Like I'm just past 60 days, so it's sometime the next week or so. Most of mine go about closer to 70. That last clutch will hatch, and that's actually my one I don't consider locality because the male isn't traceable behind my pair. So, but I just call them the extreme OKTs because that's what the sire came down from. It was I got a pair from Ralph Mills years ago, and he bred a Sherman female, his extra Sherman female, to an extreme OKT of SMR, and so I don't know anything about Don's stock, and I would bet, considering the number of morphs he does, that male's probably not locality pure, and so I don't consider it locality pure. They're beautiful animals. They're gorgeous. People love them.
Yeah, they make. That pair I had from you, I lost them in 2020.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah,
those are some killer animals, man.
They are and that's their double clutch is due to hatch any minute, and and in fact the whole first clutch I had like 12 eggs from them, and only 6 hatched. The other died in the egg, but they all went to one guy. He bought them all. And if I probably tell him that this other clutch is going to hatch, he's probably going to take that too. I don't know.
We're going to send some to Jake and Chris.
But they're different. Like the other 2 groups that I have, which is pure Sherman pair, that were ones that Ralph had produced years ago, back in looking at the cages. 16, I guess it was. Man, they're different animals, just more contrast, which I kind of like a little bit more than what the extreme pair has, which are really bred to be just deeper red and bolder colors like that, which a lot of people like. They want that deep, a little bit heavier border and just deep red, less contrast between the background and the blotches. These guys tend to have a little bit more of a clean orange background with the red blotches and maybe not as heavy borders on them. And that one wild caught female that I was fortunate enough to acquire has really added nice stuff to those Sherman animal pairing. So it's, yearlings I saved back last year are ridiculous.
Need some Ladies Island corns.
No, I need a Ladies Island male yellow rat snake.
No, okay, so
yeah.
In his defense,
Jake
has been trying, and I've been trying to help him because, like, we usually get one in like the rat in the mouse shed sometimes. So I'm like keeping an eye out for whatever reason.
I cycled that female, just that big female, just in case we got a male in time, but. Like in fact, I was talking to Jake this morning and yesterday about it. I was like, "Yeah, we're past window now." Pretty sure she wouldn't take at this point.
I felt pretty.
She'll be ready for next. She'll be ready next time.
Oh yeah, no, we're keeping that male next time he pops up in the friggin' rat shed, man.
So I need to breed some ugly yellows.
They usually come to us. It's like we don't even really have to search for them. Like they're pretty. We come across them pretty regularly, but now
they literally find you.
Yeah. Dude. Okay. Side note on yellows, real quick. I found. So this was out in my parents' house in the Sheldon area of Beaufort, and
middle of nowhere.
I came across this yellow that it was just, you can't really tell in the pictures. It's weird. But like, if it wasn't an adult, I would have kept it. But it was a very big animal, and I didn't at that age. I don't really want to take them. But it was this, like, the yellow was almost like this silvery metallic. It was almost whiter than it was yellow, but you could tell it was still, obviously it was yellow rat snake. It's all we get around here. But it was this. It was just really weird looking yellow.
You mean you found an anery and you let it go? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't an anery, because you could see the yellow on it.
World's first axanthic caramel yellow rat snake, and Jake just threw it out the fucking car. Thanks, bro.
There already is aneries established in culture, so we can at least say that, or an anery type animal. At least that's Daniel feels that it's an anery. So, but still, like, there's variety everywhere. I mean,
yeah,
an anery yellow rat from your area is going to look different than one from Central South Florida. I mean,
oh yeah,
in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
Yeah. I don't know, man. The yellows here are really nothing to.
Dude, that one, I'm telling you, that one.
Look, I'm grateful I find people that like the yellows that I've been breeding for the past number of years. Like, I can't wait to see I'm going to find people that actually like my North Carolina and South Carolina ones when I start breeding them.
I'll be snagging
those ladies on the corns, though. Oh.
So let's hit on some of those localities, starting from the north. Chris, you work with the North Carolina foothills corn snakes.
Yeah.
Phenotypically, they're a little lighter. They got a little bit more silver going on, a little bit more caramels.
Bluey grays with either red or orange dorsal blotches. And the one cool thing I've been meaning to tell you guys, because some of you guys keep some of these and like them. I've had a male for several years. I'm trying to look at the cage and what I had to Montross. Gosh, I've had him for quite a while now, like at least 5 years now. I've got a male who's from about 20 miles as the bird flies from where Michael collected his original stock there in Cleveland County. Still part of the south-facing South Mountain Range. He's never found any on the north side of the mountain. It's always been the south side that I've had this. It's technically in a different county, but those are our lines. Has nothing to do with habitat and range. And I've been trying to get a female from the same exact spot and unsuccessful because my friend is too busy in life but lives in that area. And Michael Kuhn was just like, he's like, why wouldn't you? He's like, it's the same area. He's like, it's literally down the street. He's like, I can get over there in 15 minutes. And so he has convinced me I'm going to be bringing that wild-caught blood in next season into that project.
Nice.
And because he's only got 3 wild-caught animals. It took him 11 years to acquire those 3 animals from that area and that part of the range. So I'm going to be bringing that male blood in next year to put some fresh juice into the gene pool going forward, because they're just not very common in that part of the range, and the habitat isn't great, and it's just not easy to turn up. He's promised me if he turned up one by him, he'd make sure he got to me so that I could get it in the program. He just hasn't turned any up in years now, and so I gave in. I could see his reasoning, and I think about the way I do with my gray rats from the eastern lowland Herpetoculture region. Like, mine are from 2 counties, same habitat, and as far as I'm concerned, we have a county line there. But I keep them from the 2 areas of the range. So I'm going to put that guy's blood into the program and get some fresh genes for everybody going forward. Because like mine are out to F3, I guess mine are. No, mine are F2, but I'm producing F3s. So definitely need to try to get some blood in if we can. So
yeah, those are. I have a pair, and I don't think it's me because I kind of feed everything around the same schedule. Those are small snakes.
There is my female, and I'm looking at the cage. My pair is 2016s, and shit, that female's not 3 foot. She's not.
Jeez.
Probably 30 inches, and the male's smaller and leaner, like little snakes. Yeah, they're really not a whole lot different than than some of the rosies and stuff. Their build is for most of the rosies, at least the lower rosies are a bit more lean than these guys. Excuse me. But they're little snakes. Like they're way smaller than my Okeetees. Yeah. Way smaller.
They're
way smaller.
I mean, just mine are. I think mine are 2020s I got from you or something, and they are small.
Sounds about right. Yeah,
they're
I kept a pair
snakes.
back. I kept a pair back last year, just as emergency backup stock, just to make sure I had some on hand, because I meant to do it the year before, and then people talked me out of everything that's feeding and ready to go.
Yeah,
so I'm really bad about that. They're like, "Oh, I want some of these." I'm like, okay, all right, so whatever.
Fuck it.
I finally started buckling down last year, and like I got to start holding some of these back. Like I don't even know what these things raise up to look like. Like I gotta be better about this.
There's been a couple times I'm like, hey, you got this, and you're like, I might have a pair.
Yeah, my big problem is like, I don't have a lot of room, and like so when somebody wants something, I go, I gotta buy rodents. Yep. All right. Yeah, I'll ship it to you. Screw it.
Oh man, I think
especially if you catch me at the right times of the year, it does. I'll cave in a heartbeat about stuff.
Rodents right now are hard, man. Oh man,
it's it's killing me. Like I had to go up on everything across the board, and I didn't do it much, but I did enough to say like I at least went up to try to offset it a little bit. Like most of them are like they went up $10 or $15. Most of them I didn't go up much on, but it's enough just to kind of try to help offset the fact that my rodent orders that were 250, 300 tops are now like no less. They're easy 500 every single time, and I'm having to do it more frequently. It's ridiculous.
If people don't know you and haven't bought snakes from you, you're probably one of the fairest priced snake sellers.
I try. I mean, mostly just because I'm historically just a cheap ass person, and like I don't want to spend a lot of money on an animal if I don't have to. I do cave and do it from time to time, but like that's why I go and collect my own stock. I'd rather go catch my own stock, have a background on the animals, have an appreciation for where they came from, and work with them that way. And so like I've always kind of tried to price it like what would I be willing to pay for it? Like if I wanted it bad, what would I be willing to pay for it? You know, and I kind of try to pay attention to what other people are charging for similar type stuff and go like, all right, well, I'm not charging that much, so it's got to be at least reasonably fair, you know. And same like the aneries. Like I had opportunities before I bought those Devil's Garden to get some and seeing some of the prices that some people have for some of theirs, and I'm like, no, I can't bring myself to do that. Like I didn't, and that was one of the reasons. Like I felt the price was reasonable when I came across them at Daytona a couple years ago, and was like, price is reasonable. The guy didn't feel like he was bobbling, and you know that he actually bred him and knew enough about his animals to me feel good about it. Like, you know, so I just try to, some things like if I don't want to sell it, like I'd rather keep it. You're gonna pay for it. Like, you know, you're gonna pay for my fox snakes and you're gonna pay for my mangrove water snakes. That's gonna happen. Like, because I'll just keep them. I don't care.
It's also just very hard to price some of the stuff that you work with because it's so niche. Like, you can compare, but there's really not much to compare to. You know, to be honest, you can kind of set your prices at what you want because if somebody wants it, they kind of have to go through you. You know, you're one of very few people that works with so many different localities. So it's like, it's like why can't you price it like a morph? You know, I was actually thinking about this just the other day. It's like everybody.
I've been told about that for years. That exact thing. Like you need to go up. You need to go up. And I'm like, you know. My rodent bill's paid, you know. I get a few bucks here and there. I can afford my Daytona trip is covered when I go, you know, usually just by whatever I'm bringing down for a delivery to people so they don't have to pay for shipping. You know, my stuff gets covered. If I need to buy cages, I got the money to buy new cages. I got money to buy my shavings, you know. I got the money to do it as long as I'm doing that. Then like, and I'm not, you know, and my wife's not complaining about how much, you know, that stuff's not being covered. Then I'm reasonably content, and usually it's just I try to charge what I'd be willing to pay, and I'll charge more if I don't really care about getting rid of it. Like I said, like I'll just keep all the fox babies and mangroves, which I've been doing with the mangroves anyways. Like I hadn't let anybody go for 3 years. I think this year finally maybe it's gonna happen. I think this year.
You don't have to keep all the fox snakes, buddy. I promise.
Well, most of them, I think the 2 clutches right now are more or less spoken for, even though I haven't completely written down names. But I still got another clutch cooking with Bill for my other pair. So
why don't you try your old buddy Jake's name on
you'll get a pair. Don't worry about that, man. We'll get you a pair.
I still. Oh man, I probably haven't talked about this before. I lost my mail.
Did you really?
Last year, my females, they're both rock solid. Solid. Last year, one of the 3 snakes I had die, 3 or 4 snakes, in a collection of a lot. So that probably sounds terrible. I've done murdered a couple animals. No, I straight up
happens, man.
Yeah, my male, dude,
a lot.
My female's huge. She will fly out of the cage to eat. She's gorgeous. My male just pulled open the tub, dead. And you know what's messed up? I have read this and I've heard it from a lot of older people, and I've kind of going back on old articles and reading back through the King Snake forums, which I've become a big fan. Anybody that wants to do this, you can get on the King Snake forums and go back to like 2003. It's badass. There's forums and articles. You can do this for a day. We're all gonna sit there. We're gonna binge watch, Stranger Things because it's fucking awesome. And
you're already done with that. Come on.
Yeah. But you can
that was
binge,
last weekend.
You can binge. I mean, you can go back
to Top Gun and Obi-Wan. We had to do all that in the same weekend.
Yeah. Oh, Kenobi is so goddamn good. Anyways, we're not gonna
episode 3 last night. Excellent.
So good. Yeah. So good. It was fire. Some people might say. But yeah, but you can go back and read these articles. I have found that notoriously through different species, specifically Pityophis, and now obviously fox snakes aren't Pityophis, but they're Pantherophis, but you will find that males have a higher death rate just regardless. And I think that's why you find with Pityophis, you find you'll hatch a lot more males. Jennifer Joseph talked about this.
I do too. With foxes, I always am male heavy, always. And the males, oddly, are the ones that we've struggled with too between Bill and I.
Yeah.
It's just the pair that he has up there. He travels during the winter a lot, all over during the winter months when his snakes are cooling, and he when he got back from a spring trip that he was at for 2 weeks, and I caught up with him for a little bit in Louisiana on it. He got back. He's like, "Yeah, man, I got 13 eggs from the fox snake." He's like, and the male was dead.
Yeah.
That's I lost a male last year. I didn't cycle my pairs on purpose because I was revamping some of our rat snake caging and husbandry practices, and I didn't cycle my Nebraskas on purpose. And one of the males just started looking meager, and he just went. Rah. The other male was doing fine, and they're they're all in the same cages next to each other, females in with them, and they're all brothers. It's gonna happen. It's just you roll the dice. That's why I hold crap back.
Yeah,
because that way at least it may set me back. I may have to wait a year, 2, 3, whatever, on a certain thing. But at least I've got that as a backbone for the project long term.
That's something to be said about whether it's locality projects or just kind of animals that people aren't really working with. You don't need to have 1 male and 3 females. 2.2, 3.3. If you're locally collecting these animals, get a handful of specimens. Try to collect the ones you like. Spread it out through other collections.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You got buddies that are interested in the same thing. Hey, these are really neat. For me, and we're kind of while we're still on that specifically locality phenotype here in Nueces County, we have gorgeous thorn scrub rat snakes. They're beautiful. They're God, shitty animals. They hate you. They want to kill you. Justin knows. Jake knows.
I don't know those, man. Those McMullins were pretty laid back that Jake now has. They never gave me a fuss ever.
They're fine. I think one of the females can get. The females don't really like being touched, but no,
they want to be left alone.
Yeah, they want to be left alone. They're very seclusive. They're hiding a lot, but they're not bad. And the male's great. He'll come out, chill. He doesn't freak out. He's small as shit, but he's great, man. He just chills. He's not that.
Hey, he got the job done last year on both those girls. I mean, wasn't sure he would do it, but I gave him a chance, and damned if he didn't.
Yeah,
I find that my wild caught females are just rough. They don't like you messing with them. They're eat every time, poop every time. You clean around them, leave them in the hide, they're fine. The second you start messing with them, they go crazy. But so here in Nueces County, specifically in Corpus Christi, we have Padre Island, which that island goes from up in kind of the North Galveston area, and it goes all the way down to the Mexico border. People talk about going down to South Padre for spring break and stuff like that. But it's a barrier island. It's huge. It's natural, but it's a good, I think it's 3 or 4 miles of water. It's probably more than that. I'm kind of speaking out of my ass when I say that. But I didn't really hurt Padre Island much until probably the end of last year. I didn't find much. We'll find the occasional Nerodia over there. Barometers. There's really, and I think we talked about it. There's Etherogaster a little further north. But I found some Milmorum this year, and they do not. I mean, you're talking about. I find them in my neighborhood. I found one. I think one of the ones I sent Justin was one of these kind of oddly patterned ones that I found in my neighborhood coming home from work one day, and then I go across the 2 bridges. We go to Flower Bluff, which is a small island, and then we go over that's over the Oso, and then we go over into Padre Island. And dude, these Milmorum look nothing. I mean, they're absolutely nothing like the inland Milmorum, and they're I say nothing. I mean, come on, you know what I mean? We're splitting hairs here.
I mean,
they're brown.
Talking about Milmorum, they're different.
Yeah, they're brown. They're mahogany. They have blocky heads. They're small. They have a thinner neck. They're smaller bodied, and you just compared to Nueces County animals that I keep and have in my collection now, it's night and day difference when you put them right next to each other. In fact, I think I sent the group a picture of a McMullen animal, which is a couple counties over, a little bit more inland. And then immediately a picture of the Padre Island animal. I was like, look, this is a differentiation of a subspecies within just a couple counties. And it's so that's something I'm kind of excited about.
That's the magic of it. That's what keeps me interested in keeping so many, different, just like yellow rats from the same part of the range, or red rats from the same part, from different parts of the range. Like, there's just so much variability just within the same group of animals that
exactly
you can be fascinated and intrigued by it and learn from it over time.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, if I go up to a big time ball python breeder and I show them a Slowinski eye and I show them a Milmorum, I show them an emoryi from Alpine, I show them my neat little Padre Island girl that I found, they're gonna say, oh man, yeah, that's a rat snake, you know what I mean? And that's a corn snake. That one's more red, and I understand that, but that's why
you don't have a flashy name on it, man. You got to call it like Starflight Mojave VVIP, Etchy Pin or something. Or
hippopotamus.
But these are the same guys that will look at a ball python. And now I do have a lot of appreciation for the ball python hobby. It was our Tiger Woods, right? Like we would literally not be here talking about this if it was, Tiger Woods opened up the game of golf to so many people and created such a beautiful thing in that sport. Ball pythons did the exact same thing for the reptile hobby, regardless of what we think.
Maybe I don't know. I think the Guttatas complex did back in the early 90s,
and that's also true. You had your Phil Mickelsons and
as everybody was really starting to like produce all a number of different morphs and was able to start really having lots of different colors hatch out and bringing in wild stock from different areas. Like it really did cycle down by all means. People got bored with it, and that maybe was where the balls came in or whatever was the rage at the moment. I mean, they definitely. My neighbor stopped going to vending at Daytona and selling his because he was basically having to sell a good portion of his babies to Tyrone at the end of the weekend.
Yeah,
it's cycled down, and is what it is. But I don't know. It's everybody seems to be on a colubrid bandwagon, at least at the moment. Maybe it'll hang around for a little while.
I think it will. I think just the hobby in general has grown so much that we have all these people coming in that maybe want something smaller size.
Yeah.
Maybe different care parameters. I'm pretty sure if I put a ball python in my collection, it would be dead real fast. Because my room, I fight to keep my room at 60%, 65% humidity. And that's and like you, I go to extents to make that happen. And fuck, I couldn't tell you the truth. I don't know if ball pythons like humidity or not. I could be talking out of my ass. But
they're tropical. They do like
okay.
it.
Well, shit.
You want it humid, lower
Jake has
ventilation.
one. Ask him.
Jake, how's your ball python?
Spurge.
Sucks. He eats a jumbo mouse every couple weeks, and it's just another mouth to feed.
He's doing great. I
love the fucker to death, but goddamn, if I find a kid who just wants a pet snake, he can have him.
This is what we do with the gifts that are given.
Yeah, that's have you ever heard the term "don't give a live animal as a gift"? You ever heard that? Yeah, take notes.
This was different,
fucker.
Look, I can't knock him. I got a good friend that has a big table at Daytona every year that I've known for over 30 years now, and I walk by his table and I literally just drool. Like the balls he's got on his table are just
they're badass looking.
Amazing. I go by Jordan's table and just go, God damn. And of course, Kim walks up to the table, doesn't see the prices, goes, I like that one.
Yeah.
That's the one that's like $7,500.
Yeah.
No, it's the $300 one you point at over here. It's down here on the bottom.
That was I'd never held a python until like 2 years ago. It's just a circumstance, I guess. And there was a retic breeder at one of the Corpus shows, which is really cool because I don't know anything about reticulated pythons. And they were like across the way from me, and they let me hold this very neat looking animal. I don't know what it was, but I was holding it and I was like, oh man, shit, I kind of get it. This thing gets like 10 foot long. It's amazing. And we all we get so hyper focused on our little subsect in this hobby, and we gotta reach out a little bit. Don't fuck with chondros though. They suck, man.
Thank you.
Look, I'm not bashing your chondros, guys. I've kept them and bred them. I have a love for them. I just don't work with them anymore.
I love them. They're gorgeous. Obviously in Corpus we're pretty we can't have boas, pythons, varanus in a lot of rear fang stuff. But no,
really?
Corpus is very strict on what animals you can have and cannot have.
It's Nueces County.
It's Nueces County. Well, no. It is not Nueces County. It is the city of Corpus Christi.
Really?
So you can't have you can't have a rainbow?
Yeah, no. I had to sell my whole rosy boa collection. Yeah, I had 3 or 4 pairs of locality rosy boas and had to get rid of all of them. Wow. I had Fish and Wildlife come by because like I don't fuck around, I guess. Like I'm real serious. And my buddy worked for Fish and Wildlife, and he was when I got my black pines, he wanted to come see him, and he was like, "Hey, like you literally can't have these." And I was like, "What? That's crazy!" And so yeah, the city of Corpus has a city ordinance that has exotic animals listed on it. Can't have sugar gliders.
Wow.
See, it's kind of sad though, because and this is obviously I'm admitting fault here, but I also had no idea. I lived in Corpus for 6 months. Okay, and again, this is me admitting fault. I did not know about this law when I moved there, but I had carpets shipped to the house that I lived in.
Tell it to the judge
in Nueces County. Label on it, carpet python.
They're not actively looking for that.
I don't think they are.
It's nuts, man. It's one of those things. I don't know. I guess I'm of the opinion if you're gonna make it a law, enforce it. You know what I mean? Because it's silly. But then they have that show there. What county?
Now that's in Nueces County, but that's Robstown. That's a different city.
Yeah, it's Robstown. They have
all ball pythons.
Yeah, it's all ball pythons. I worked at the PetSmart there in Corpus when I first moved there just for a job, and man, a little kid walked in with a ball python around his wrist because he just left the Robstown show, and I was like.
But did you notice they didn't sell ball pythons?
No, they had no pythons whatsoever at the store.
Look,
man.
Now you have a ball python.
There's a lot of stuff I can't keep here too, and then most of it's stuff that I have an interest in. I mean, a lot of the native species, king's pines, Clarkii. Like I can't keep any of that stuff here. They just blanket ban stuff here to protect native population.
It's local, yeah.
See, you can keep bears.
Yeah, you can also. Never mind. I'm not gonna say.
What?
No, that was going to be a little too much. Sorry.
Chris, you have worked with bear dye before, right?
Yeah. I've bred them too. Yeah, I just that some of those Western locales they don't like my place, and then the last ones I had, I brought back up to Bill's, and he's got some, and we'll probably. He thought he was going to get some eggs last year, but we'll probably the last group of that I brought back up should start breeding this year. I would assume he's got a couple females that I'd raised up and brought back up to him. And they're all from they're all Highway 277, so the Eastern Range ones, the really pretty ones.
Yeah, that's that's a great point to hit on as far as collection capabilities. I my sub box did all right. I think Justin still has the sub box I sent him.
I do.
My Baja rats. Oh, I talk about it every show. I have murdered some Baja rats. They just too high humidity. My Brevis and my Variegatus, I was very lucky, and they breed, and they've been doing really well. I think it's the higher heat, higher ventilation. But yeah, so not every collection can have every animal. I think we've kind of deviated a little bit off the Guttatus complex, but that still happens well within the Guttatus complex.
Sure.
Like you said, these intermontane animals are going to used to a higher elevation. They're used to much lower humidity levels. And if you're everybody's room is different, and hell, I could probably build another room, which I am actually working on designing and building another room. I could have a lower humidity area, but I might be fighting to have better sheds, and maybe I don't keep my New Caledonians.
There's a lot. I mean, the environment that a red rat is exposed to in the Okatee Hunt Club area, and what one gets exposed to down in your corner of the world, and what one gets exposed to in New Mexico or Kansas. I mean, those are huge differences of humidity levels, hide choices, temperatures in the winter, temperatures in the summer, winds.
Sure.
It's huge differences, and that can affect greatly how we have success and what we offer them within the closet environments, essentially, that we offer them in our herp room building areas, whatever we all each have. I mean, it all varies big time. I mean, one of the big reasons I kind of got back into colubrids years ago is because I spent a lot of years working with tropical species, both professionally and at home, and I personally don't like having everything plugged in and heated. I don't like heat lamps. I don't want heat pads. I don't like all that stuff. Like, I know too many people that have had huge collection failures from heat pad failures, and people that have had fires or almost had fires, almost burned their house down, and like I would have a very different collection if I didn't kind of have that looming over my head at this point in my life.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't want it to happen. Like, and I have 2 heat pads in my room, and they're sitting under my Indian Samboas, but they're on a ventilated shelf, and the cage, the bin cages that sit on those things have little feet, so there's no like direct closed contact situation. There's always air flowing over those heat pads, so like it's not going to overheat. It's not going to cause a problem easily outside of just like a true electrical problem. I just try to keep a lot of those factors. Like, if I didn't care about that, I'd still be keeping basilisks because they're still my favorite animal in the herp world ever. But like, awesome. I had walk-in cages with them with big pools and heat lamps and filtration in the ponds and just these big walk-in enclosures, and it's just it's a huge liability that can be done right and people never have problems with. I never had a problem, but I saw other people with problems. And it makes me worry, and having stuff plugged in all the time with a house full of dogs that we actively show and compete with and love and base our life around them. One thing if the house burns down by itself, I got insurance, but like I got a house full of dogs, and I don't want that shit happening when I'm not home, to be able to contend with.
And I think we're all kind of in that same boat where we have pets, we have dogs, we have kids, we have family members we care about. Regardless of reptile collection, there's just constantly a safety factor. I know personally, I keep my room cold, not cold, cool, very cool, about 75 to 77, and I have heat tape on everything, and I mean you're talking 100, give or take tubs, and I am constantly double checking, cleaning, making sure everything.
I used heat tape in the early 90s when it first came in. You had to assemble your own and put your clamps on with your wire. Like, I hated it back then. Like, I absolutely hated it. Like, I saw too many cages, your bins rubbing on them and causing hot spots and failures on them. That's like, all right, I'm never using it. I know it's safer these days. You buy it pre-wired and it's like wired straight. You don't have to do it necessarily yourself.
Yeah.
But like I've got, I do technically the 2 pieces that I have are technically heat tape, but they're like pre-wired ones.
Yeah.
That's all molded over. It's no clamp connection issues and stuff. And I chose to put it in a way that like I felt as safe as I could. And it's literally just I have 2 shelves and my couple of Indian Samboas sit on them just to give them a focal hot spot above what this room ambiently sits for the colubrids.
And I mean, I think Chris, you're like me. We were breeding animals when it was calcium sand and hot rocks and rheostats. You had rheostats.
It's not anymore.
We had.
I still use both of those things.
I think I've seen them on some of those tables at Daytona. Like I think they're still a thing.
No, hey, everybody talks about leopard geckos needing paper towels and all this shit, dude. Blue calcium sand, a hot rock, a 20-gallon aquarium with a lid. We're good to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I bred them for years.
Yep.
Don't
Repticarpet.
do that. Yeah, Repticarpet.
Don't do that.
That was the future. Repticarpet was way in the future.
Dude, I used Repticarpet for a long time when I had leopard geckos, man.
Why didn't you put them on calcium sand like a real man, Jake?
Because
or you could do it like some big breeders, and they literally just don't put any substrate, and they just go through and vacuum it out and have it easy maintenance, that nothing to eat but poop in there and crickets. Like what some of the big scale guys do, and just take the whole factor out of ingestion.
Yep.
Yeah. No risks when there's nothing there to risk, and that's
nothing there to risk.
Yeah,
constantly clean it, and
that's exactly why every snake in my collection gets fed in a separate tub. Every single one, every time.
Oh my god!
Do you really?
No, I don't do.
Oh god, I was.
No, that would take hours upon hours, and it already does. If I feed I normally don't feed everything on the same day because it just takes too freaking long. Because prepping water snake food takes longer than anything because I have to chop all these little pieces of freaking fish up.
Jake, you sound like somebody that doesn't have to use a very, very specific scenting item on the snake that only eats at 6 p.m. that you put in the paper bag in the closet at the exact level in the closet because it will not.
Jake, you can't really you can't compare Nerodia against Alterna. I'm sorry.
No, it's me. That's exactly why I don't keep them. Chris is like, "Oh, dude, get these. It's fine." I'm like, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
No, like that sounds terrible.
Alterna,
I don't want to do that.
My kick on Alterna, every single one of them is different on exactly what it kicks them off to eat. But the second they eat, they will eat every damn time. They're such and especially once you get them established, once they're just eating frozen thawed pinks, they will eat every single time they'll come flying out the tub trying to get or cage or whatever.
Okay, my argument.
I played around with some of those variables back in the very early 90s, like 89, 90. Yeah, and back then I know they've been kind of reevaluated in recent years, and so I remember them being white and pinstriped, and some of them were gray or pinstriped. Anyways, but like those were challenging little babies to deal with. Some would eat right away, and others were like, "What? Are you kidding me? I have no intention of doing any of this." No.
That's I'm.
They're like Candoya babies. They're just
I am 100% on every species to get it to eat, with the exception of corn snakes. Every year I have a couple corn snakes that it doesn't matter what extent I go to, they are not going to eat. Yeah,
I got a couple of South Mountain babies right now that are killing me because like Jake wants some, and I got another guy waiting for a female, and like I've got I think 4 out of the clutch or so of 10 that like are just hardcore stalemate me. Like I can't even tease feed them, and I start a lot of my baby rats that don't want to just eat right away. I can get them all tease feed, and like I can't even get these guys to tease feed. Like it just won't work.
It's so weird. I don't know what it is about corn snakes, and I've done the Everglades. Chris, you've talked to me about tease feeding, and I Everglades. Sometimes they're hit or miss, but I get them going. Alterna, you just kind of got to find the thing that makes them click. This year, I'm going to find out a little bit more about the Leonis. So it's going to be my first year breeding. Pituophis are cool because I'm pretty sure I could feed one while it's hatching. I haven't tried it yet, but somebody in one of the group chats said, "Hey, take one of those Jani and try and give it a peeky while it's still in the egg." And I was like, "Yeah, probably do it."
Foxes are kind of notorious for being that way, although I tried offering these first ones that hatched, and literally I had like one eat 2 pinkies, and everybody else was like, nah, I'm pretty good. My belly's still full from the egg. I'm good.
Yeah.
Check back to me in a week.
One thing I really like doing on feeding, I do it with my corns. I did it with my alternate. I've kind of done it with everything that's not a Pitiophis. Pitiophis, the day they shed, maybe the next day is when I'm going to start trying to feed them because they literally will eat.
I do that actually with most of my baby rats, whether it's corns or otherwise. Like when they're in their little group cage after hatching, waiting to shed, if I'm in here feeding and I see that they're starting to shed, I will literally just start dropping fresh, extra small pinks in the cage.
Nice.
With them. And over the next day or two is when I'm going to separate them off anyways. So I can go through and as I'm setting them up, palpate and see if they've eaten and mark their cage accordingly if they've eaten. But I do that, and I usually get several of them right off the bat as soon as they've shed to go ahead and get those first meals on board. And a lot of them will double feed too. I get a lot of them that'll double feed things right off the bat.
I'm going to step aside, try to close this garage a little bit. You may hear a little noise, but Chris, why don't you go on, maybe talk about a couple different localities, especially down in the Keys or maybe up in the North Carolina animals, on what it is to get them established as babies. And I'm going to step away for a second, guys.
Oh, man. It varies. The rosy rats down in the Keys are just absolutely tedious little things. They're my bane every year, getting those little guys going. Months of headache, and I've still got some I'd kept back. I haven't hatched off any of the big pines, I think, in 2 years now. As I held them off 1 year, I lost my male acutely, who looked beautiful and fine last fall. So I wasn't able to breed them this year, but my buddy's still breeding them. Still has the parents of mine, so I kept back several pairs to make sure we had enough going forward. And I still have a big female sitting up. But I've got 5. 5 of the ones that I still have, I literally have one that feeds on its own at this point. All the rest of them are still hand tease feeding. Like, I can't get them to voluntarily take a dropped pinky or fuzzy. Well, I guess they're kind of really at fuzzies and pushing hoppers at this point. But like, they will aggressively take it if I just hold them, jiggle it in front of their face. They will take it and swallow it right down in my hand, or if I let it set them down. It's ridiculous. They're in the South Mountain, almost those foothills animals are almost as bad. The babies are actually smaller than the rosies. They're so stinking tiny. I get a few that start right off and they eat right from the get-go, easy peasy, and then the others are like, I'll think about it, and that's where I'm at. I'll be working hard. I've already, this couple that have stalemating me, or I've gone boiled already, tease feeding, brained. I've gone down the whole 9 yards, and they're still paining me to this day. So I'm hoping I can get these couple of girls going to try to make a couple other people happy that are eagerly waiting for some, like Jacob and another guy or two. So I had a couple that start right off the bat, and I've already actually sent out 2 pairs of somebody that had already got a couple pairs and wanted more, and so they're on the way to him now. But they're that, unlike all the Okeetees that I have. God, I mean, like, most of them eat eagerly from the get-go. Like, I might have 1 or 2 at most that you want to give me trouble for a week or two, but most of those guys, and I don't know if some of it has to do with most of my Okeetees are down from the Sherman line, and he's had the line. Howie Sherman's got that line for a number of years from stock that he collected, and probably has refined feeding habits over the years. But even the ones that I outcrossed to that wild-caught female, they're kind of spazzy temperament because of the new blood, but like, they're super hardy eaters from the get-go. And I think it probably has to do with just the lifestyles of where they come from. You're just more eager feeders. I think some of those ones from the foothills areas are more fixed on ground skinks and stuff like that as babies, not feeding on rodents and stuff like that as early meals, and that just ends up making it more of a challenge. But even with the rosies, I've tried in years past to try to get them to even take newborn geckos, and I'll literally leave newborn Mediterranean geckos in the cages with them for a week at a time, and they won't touch them. Like, they don't care. I've actually found tease feeding to be a more productive method of getting those guys going right from the start. I'm not force feeding. I'm not doing anything. I'm just tease feeding them by hand, and after 1 or 2 tries, they're eagerly taking it if I offer it to them, and they're willingly taking it. There's no stress involved with it, and then it's just a matter of giving them opportunity to try to take it on their own over time. My yellow rats in general are the same way, pretty quick after a couple of years.
It's kind of
spazzy babies and just don't want to. They're too nervous to want to. Little agitation, they'll eagerly grab it up and start taking it down.
It's so weird. We see with a lot of these animals that once they take a couple meals, they're like, "Oh, okay, that's what it is," and then they're just set. I don't think I've had a corn or emoryi that has started eating, had a couple meals in, and then just stopped. I'm sure there's probably a standout somewhere along the line with.
You get one once in a while. The female South Mountains that I held back last year for myself, I only think I had one female, so I just kept her back because I really needed a reserve to keep around. Of course, she was, a challenging one to get going, was on and off, kind of being a bit of a dinker for a while. And then, it was about 6 months in, over the winter, Christmas time or somewhere in the holiday window, suddenly she's just like, I got this. And just
took off.
She just started taking it, and she eagerly will just take rodents. I just put it in the cage, and if she sees it even slightly move, I don't have to touch it anymore. She just grabs it right up. I can give her a second one if it's something small, goes right for it. So she's well behind the male I kept back size-wise because he was eating great from the get-go. But at least she's going solid now. Some of them are just that way. For whatever reason, and who knows? It just is what it is. But
one thing I've noticed with the Good Tadas complex, I've yet to have one that needed a live meal.
I don't. Yeah, I
at all.
Some of it of recent years, I can't remember really how it worked with me when I was breeding any of them back in the late '80s, early '90s window. I probably had access to live pinks more back then. Now I just don't have any because you just don't. All you have is big box stores.
Yeah.
And I can order rodents, and I don't have the room at the moment. I was breeding some rodents for a while. It just got to be they weren't producing enough for what I was putting into them, and so basically everybody's got to figure it out off the frozen thawed. And I don't remember it ever being a huge game changer really when I used them on them in the past. I mean, there's always going to be some that maybe that's the game changer for 1 or 2, but most of those, if you would have tried some other tricks, they'd have taken onto it anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say little Timmy's listening to this podcast. He's on episode 6. He's been excited about all the morphs we've been talking about, but now we're sitting here talking about locality animals. He's heard us talk about the Devil's Garden anaries. What about some locality morphs? Actual, true locality bred.
Ladies Island Pesseras.
Oh, those lady. Well,
boy, I'm ready.
Oh no, that's not a locality morph.
That's not a locality morph. What I'm talking about is red zeppelins that we get from the Okity or Okity Home Club.
Well, actually, really, it's not even almost that. It's really just Howie Sherman's line.
Okay, because so those are even lineage specific.
Yeah, he hatched out a single animal that he could not repeat. It was literally just as I understand it, I didn't talk to him directly, but I have several friends who are friends with him, and as I understand it, he had a single animal produced along the way. He wasn't able to repeat that, but he was able to bring that animal forward in his line, and it has shown to be a little bit of a different looking animal and act a little bit different phenotypically, as I understand. I don't have any, but I have looked into them because a couple friends have asked me about them and that sort of thing, so I kind of dug a little bit into them. I think it's an interesting gene from what I understand. There's still some proofing of it being done, I think, with Tony D and some other folks, as I understand it.
I don't know if anybody that is invested into the Red Zeppelin line has ever outcrossed it to a normal AML corn, right? Like what we.
I'm not sure. I know. Well, if anybody has, maybe Tony has, because I know he's
that may
been
be
doing
where the fluorescent line came from.
I don't know. I know he's brought in some of the Sunkissed or Hypo. I don't know. You guys have changed names in the morph world. What we called hypos back
Oh, they're
30 years
now.
ago.
Yeah.
Or I guess Sunkiss now. We got to have a fancy, more sellable name than Hypo.
Well, because there's Hypo lines and other
Yeah. Isn't Hypo just a T positive? I don't know. I think so. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what type of hypo you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
There's lava.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyways, not the morph show, but
yeah.
There's a lot.
Yeah, and I understand that some hypos have actually popped out of his line too, more recently, as I believe I've seen, and one guy has actually bred them together and now has Phoenix, and they're all, as I understand it, Howie's line.
Okay.
He's on social media. Tammy or Tanny Piduophis guy. He's been posting some of Howie's. It's his stock of Howie's of recent, and if I understood it correctly, some hypos have popped out as well, and he has crossed the hypo with the Zeppelin and then labeled it as a Phoenix. Now, I could be wrong on some of that because I haven't really focused, but because it's a line that I've got, I kind of pay attention to it a little bit to try to understand what's happening to it. I also heard that those Lake Sheen, those Orange County or from Orlando animals have popped out some hypos. And some of that.
Yes, I believe that is true. I don't know. Sadly, it's are we going to call them hypos? Are they going to be called something else? Does it interact with normal hypo? But regardless of what it interacts with, we can find red Zeppelins. There's a few breeders out there that work with them. Yeah. If I introduce any new snakes into my collection this year, because I am banned on getting new snakes this year, I'd like to get a pair of red Zeppelins. But Devil's Garden Anaries, what a neat going on that. And a lot of people may not know this, that the Devil's Garden Anaries actually have a wild population.
A pretty big. I've always heard 25%.
Yeah,
but it's out there, and it's not just in Hendry County and the immediate Devil's Garden area. There's kind of a couple county little window down there in that corner spot of the lake down there where they've been found over the years, over the generations.
What's really interesting about that line is in corn snakes, and I'll kind of hit on the more side. We have a few different lines of anary, and they're actually not compatible and do have compounded forms. So in corn snakes, we know we have anary, we have caramel, and we have charcoal. All three of those, I believe it's anary A, B, and C. Not going to tell you which one's which, but standard base black corn snakes, black albinos is what they were originally called. The anary line. A lot of people like to think that originated from the Devil's Garden stock, but going back, it looks like they didn't. But that original line of anary, the original black albino, is compatible with the Devil's Garden stock. So that gene falls in that same recessive world. And one of the beautiful things that when we had that podcast with Travis Wyman, we've learned that maybe it's a little more complex than just two genes making that happen. But that's really neat to know that there's a wild population of those animals.
Yeah, and it's not hard. If you put time in down there, you can usually turn them up. I know lots of people that have found them over the years, and friend they caught a gravid normal female, and portion of the babies were anary years many years ago. So I mean, it's
how cool is that?
They're there. The habitat supports it. It's not selected out by predators and that sort of thing. So it's managed to hang around.
On the emoryi side of things, still in the Gutatis complex, we have the this was. And I wish I knew the full lineage of it, but my brain just stopped working. But a gentleman local to us in the Nueces County found a striped animal. The wild-caught animal was one of the most perfect striped animals. Reverse stripe is what it used to be called. That anybody has ever seen, and bred it into Nueces County wild-caught animals. And now I'm lucky enough to be working with that lineage, and a few other people are. And you'll see them pop up. You'll see Nueces County animals pop up. That have this. I mean, it is.
Well, even the ones that the McMullins that
I was about to say
I got from John, the ones that Jake now has. One of those females produced some animals, one or two animals with some pretty different, atypical patterning on them.
The wildcat that I sent Justin, the male, is very.
He's got some aberrancies.
Yeah, he's very aberrant, and it looks like if you take one of these perfect reverse stripe animals and breed it into a normally pattern animal, you'll start seeing those aberrancies right out of the first generation. So it doesn't work like a recessive gene. It doesn't really work like a super form either. It's a line bred trait. But that's a cool thing. And I am planning on working with those animals on a couple different levels. I will be producing those animals as Nueces County stock. I'll also be pairing those into the hobby side of emoryi, because I have albinos, I have chocolates, I have a het anary emoryi, so I'm going to pair those in. So now we'll start hopefully seeing, it's going to take years to get that project rolling. Next year will be my first year breeding them. I think I have 12 or 14 sticks in that project because I love it. I love those things. But it's really neat. Last year, a good friend of ours found in McMullen County just in McMullen County, a perfect example of a reverse striped animal. And we don't know if it was male or female. It was about 5 foot long. The male morum in this complex are the biggest. They're huge. They'll eat small rats readily. They act like a Pitiophis. They have chicken eggs for eggs. It's not like corn snake. For some reason, everything in Nueces County, McMullen the close, and I see this even in bull snakes, has massive water-filled giant eggs.
Oh man, those Alpines babies, those eggs are gigantic.
Yeah,
they'll only have 3 or 4 eggs, but they're like they're literally like little pine babies. They're just enormous. Even the Intermontana are the same way. Like they have big honking babies.
It ain't like a corn snake or a Slowinski eye. It's totally different.
Yeah, very, very different. Like it's amazing to think that as inhospitable as the habitat is in the Keys, that you get these little crappy little baby snakes that still manage to survive in that crappy habitat. Yeah, but you got this harsh habitat farther out west, and you just get these giant babies that can manage to survive. Like it's interesting how that works.
My Clayburgh bulls. And Jake has a pair of my Clayburgh bull snakes. I had 6 massive, they're giant eggs, almost the size of my black pine snake eggs, which my black pine snake eggs were over 4 inches, which is just a shocker, right? That snake looks huge until it lays eggs, and you just look at it and you're like, holy shit, how did you push that out of your body? But my 6.5 foot female Clayburgh bull lays 6 eggs that are massive. And then my Kankakee bulls, which I did lose my entire clutch, don't know what caused that. I had 14 eggs go bad. All 14 eggs went bad at the exact same time. Could have been, let's call it a million different variables. They were in the same setup as all my other eggs. They were in the same incubator as all my other eggs. They looked good, didn't candle them. Maybe that's my own fault. But she laid 14 tiny little, just above the size of a corn snake egg. And you're still talking about an animal that's 5.5 foot long. So obviously with these different localities, we're talking about Pitiophis here, but even the same thing with Pantherophis. We take Milomorum, which their genealogy shares over 12 to 15% with Slowinski eye, which has been proven through, I believe, mitochondrial DNA. I probably said that wrong. Not a fucking scientist.
No, you said it right. You did it right.
But mitochondrial DNA, one of the reasons they split these up when we look at that paper that was wrote last year or the year before, why do you split up Milomorum as its own species? Well, it's over 12% different, over 20% different, but shares 12% of its genealogy with Slowinski eye. If genealogy is the wrong word, Dr. Loafman, I'm sorry. But I'm not a scientist.
Zach's going to correct all of us.
Zach's going to cut the next episode of Colubrid and Clubroid Radio is what did Chris say wrong?
He's going to bash our whole episode tonight.
But yeah, it's crazy to know that these animals from here lay these giant chicken egg size eggs, and they're 6 foot long. We find 6 foot rats, as often as we find rats, but they're big and they're girthy and they're huge, and males are always way smaller, and they lay a couple 6 to 10 eggs, and then you go to Slowinski eye or corn snakes or normal Guttatus complex animals that we're so used to seeing in the hobby, and I got a 3 foot snake that just laid me, or 3.5 foot snake that just laid me 16 eggs that are all perfect, and it's
Yep. My Slowinski laid 18 this year.
Holy cow! And what is
she laid 18? 4 went bad. I find the container. How did I? Looks like I ended up with 13 hats. Looks like.
And what is that? A 4-foot snake? Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's wild.
That's a maybe.
And so it kind of makes me pique the question of why in certain habitats are we seeing so many few eggs, bigger eggs.
Yeah.
But yeah.
There was we were talking about locality morphs before. There was one that I had years ago. This was 30 years ago that I kind of ended up with and started, and then ultimately, more on my part, ended up failing back in the mid 90s on that. Started from stock in DeLand, Florida. My good buddy, go down to Daytona, the expos down there. He's got a big ball python booth. George MD. We had done some swapping, and he had owed me some stuff, and I was like, well, just give me a couple. He had a couple red rats from local there in town, and I said, just give me a couple of those, and that'll be good. And so I'd stopped, but swung through. I was still living in Gainesville at the time at school, and I'd swung through. The first couple that hatched, I took them. I don't know if I took 2 or 4. I want to say it was 4. I don't remember. But the first couple that hatched are the ones that I took, and I had kind of liked one of his animals. It looked a little different, like a little grayer, a little interesting. I was just like, yeah, I'll take some of those. So I grabbed these first couple, didn't really think much of it, and then I kind of started noticing that these animals were different. They had no pattern on the side. They were not like a white side, but they were just unpatterned on the side, just like gray on the side. The animals had more of a gray tone to them overall, which is not super typical for Florida. We tend to have pretty reasonable colors, most of the state of Florida, of oranges and reds and that sort of thing, yellowish colors. Mm-hmm. But the ventral pattern also was extremely minimal to not present, more like you would see on a rosy rat down in the Keys. And the other ones, after I'd gotten these, and he and I compared notes about it as time went on, the rest of the clutch was normal and had regular ventral patterns and side patterns. So these first couple that hatched out had this different look to them. Fast forward a couple years and I bred them. The first ones that hatched out were the same way. The rest of the clutch was normal.
Interesting.
It was weird. And then just through life and everything, it just you lose animals, and then before you realize, we're not really focused on doing stuff like that. And I think I was probably working more with some more tropical species at the time and not working as much with colubrids before we realized it's like, well, we didn't have these things that I called DeLand silvers is what I called them. We just didn't have them anymore. He didn't hang on to anything of it, and I lost the few that I had along the way after breeding them once or twice, and it was gone. But it was a really cool, different sort of looking snake from a part of the range that normally you don't have an animal look like that.
A lot of projects you can generate out of these locality phenotypes.
Sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah. There's a lot. I can only imagine with, you mix some of these like North Carolina, South Mountain animals into some of the morph lines and stuff out there that would, what that would do to the colors and tones and stuff like that. It would really be amazing.
One of me and Justin's kind of combined projects we did this year was breeding a ghost tessera female to a wild caught male from Ladies Island. Let's see what they look like, right?
Yep.
You know, we're going to get tesseras from the first generation, and let's. I mean, why not? The door is open on all of this. We have a lot of possibilities on things that we can still create, whether it's a new morph or it's just a line that we put together and bring together. Well, Chris, I mean, I think we're probably going to be wrapping up soon on the podcast. But here, great question. We ask everybody this, and we want to get your thoughts on this. I think you've already seen this. In the corn snake hobby with morphs, there's a couple that kind of stand out. What are your thoughts on? Let's just start with scaleless. What do you think about the scaleless projects and the scaleless snakes in general?
I mean, on the whole, I don't have a problem with people keeping them and working with them. It's not something necessarily that I'm gonna go work with. It's just not my cup of tea, so to speak. Sure. I don't really know. That's the one that started. That was the emoryi crossed into the guttatas, right? Yeah. So even more, even more so for me, that's not my cup of tea. Just because of that. But like, I don't, that's what you like. Great, super duper. Go make some cool, pretty animals that don't have scales or don't have most of the scales.
They're real pretty, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
real
I will not argue that they're not pretty animals. They're beautiful animals. I mean, there's some of them you get colors and tones that you don't get out of a normal looking animal because of that. Because the underlying skin tone colors are different than what produces on the keratin and the scales and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You get some very, very different looking animals. And yeah, again, that's to each his own. Nobody has to like my yellow rats or my banded water snakes from Lake Jessup in Seminole County, Florida. Like, they don't have to like them. I don't care. I like them. You like your scaleless and want to make lavender colored ones and whatever other color, it's great. Enjoy it. Love it. Have fun with it. That's, not something that interests me to work with, so to speak. That's all.
Cool. Any comments on palmetto? It's kind of proven itself as an interesting gene as to what it does to the animals.
I can't argue it's not a beautiful animal. Maybe I would have liked to have seen it kept as a locality animal more than anything else.
That would have been cool.
Do know where it comes from. I know Daniel Parker kind of knows like where it came from and knows the people involved and that sort of thing. Like, maybe I would have liked to see it kept as a project like that, and maybe more, especially because it's proven to not be a variable enough to be exciting in the long run. You pretty much have a snake that doesn't look a whole lot different no matter what you do with it.
Yeah.
And from my understanding of it and what I've heard on this podcast from some of the others talking about them that have worked with them and stuff. I mean, I see them and it's like everyone is exactly the same in general. Not saying that's true. Some have gray spots and some have red spots and maybe some have yellow spots. But on the whole, that like it's like a leucistic Texas. It's not that variable. You can't do a whole lot with it. And so I think my neighbor's got one across the street. I think Rick's got one, if I'm not mistaken. They're cool. I'm not, some people made some good money on them. How about that?
Yeah, still do.
Yeah, still do. Like there's some good money to be made on it. So it's a cool animal. I'd probably take more of an interest in it if it was kept as a locality project. I think that would actually kind of perk my interest a little bit on the matter.
I wish some of those original animals were kind of just kept back and instead of being bred into everything to try to compound what it does.
Yeah, I can appreciate putting it in and see what it was going to do and continuing to try to make it to see what it's going to do as you mix in the different both pattern and color mutations out there. But maybe at least one guy keep back a few animals and breed it from the same area in South Carolina with some animals and do some of that. That's that would have been made it a little more interesting to me. But it's a cool snake. It's a pretty snake. I take an extra stop when I'm going by the tables at Daytona and see them because it's not something I see on a regular basis because I don't work with that kind of thing. I gawk at some of those different corn snake morphs because I used to do corn morphs back in the day. I mean, I've got, like I said, I've got several morphs that I'm trying to bring between the Williams eye and a new albino Everglades, lineage and anachronistic yellow-bellied waters, and I think I got something else in here. Piebald Midland waters. I got a few things I'm playing with to see what happens with it. Everybody likes their own stuff. Enjoy it. If you're not enjoying it, don't do it. Shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Damn, what a prominent statement. Yeah, exactly.
That's all. I mean, if you're not enjoying it, like I part with stuff like because I love something else more than others. I've been thinning some stuff out because I've just, as the years have gone on, I really just love my mangrove water snakes more than I like some of my different localities of bandits, and I love my bandits. I love my banded waters. Like, God, I like them. But like, I'm really starting to like these mangroves even more and more the more litters I have. Like, I'm just like, all right, I got to make more room in this little bit of room I've got for more of those. And I just set up 2 more adult size cages for some young ones that I've been raising up. So they're ready for next year. It's just, just gotta make room for what you love. If you don't love it, find somebody that does and work with what you do like.
What a good, as we're closing statement, we've been in this hobby for 20 years plus. Some of us are still in it.
Some of us well more.
We don't. Even if you don't love something, sometimes you just don't have every bit of space, and there's other things you love more. I've taken a huge. Alterna was the first snake I ever had. I'm obsessed with Alterna. I've increased my Alterna collection compoundedly. and it's not for lack of love even on other species. It's just we're limited on time. We're limited on space. Every if it sucks as humans, every minute of our lives has a dollar amount on it, right?
Yep.
Like we've proven that by going to work for the man, and now some of us are lucky enough to not have to do that, but even then, your time is worth money.
Yep.
And so where are you spending your money? Where are you spending your time?
Where are you spending your time? Yep.
And nobody in this hobby ever needs to feel embarrassed because they've decided to get rid of a project or they've decided to move something on, because it's not about that. We all share the same really dumb passion, right?
Yep.
And we all keep these things in boxes, regardless if it's a wall size bioactive or a beautifully handcrafted BlackBox enclosure, hand delivered to your door with unicorn dust on it. You know what I mean? Regardless of what you're keeping your animals in, we're all doing this as a hobby. Even if you're full time, you have to love it. So don't feel bad if you realize
if you've been doing a good job at it. You've made other people love what you're doing and what you're working with, and you can find those people to work with them.
Chris, I bought snakes from you, raised them up, sent them to Jake. I know where they're at. I love them. I still love those animals, but I know that there's
you like your alternative better. I get it.
I love my no.
And see, but that's where I fall in, is because panther, I won't say panther overs, just like yellow rats and grays, like that's my shit.
You
man.
said you got rid of some derpy yellow rats that the rest of us like for your fancy dancy, alterna. I get it. I get it. We'll go hide in our corner with our yellow rat snakes.
Hey, I have a lot of snakes from you still.
I know.
But he messaged me. He was like, "Hey man, you want some grays for Montross?" I said, "Is the sky blue?" Yes, sir. Send them over. You just completed my white oak collection. Thank you very much.
I'm a big fan of also, Jake and Justin and a lot of other friends that listen to this podcast. I will literally send you the things I love, because I want to know where they go. And Chris, if you're ever interested in anything out more.
Like Jake knows, he's got a couple things. I've been sending a few Fasciata groups out to folks that I know love them and are at least going to try to be successful with them. Doesn't mean they will. We all fail at stuff. Things don't follow through, and these were all juveniles, young animals. And, Jake's got some, and a couple other guys have some too, and it's mostly like those aren't established yet. And I'd like to try to see them get established, but I don't have the room to have, I think I was at that point, up to 17 locality groups of Fasciata. Like, I just don't have the room to keep doing that at the moment in my life. We talked about expanding this year, and my wife and I just kind of finally decided, it's like, I don't have the time to devote to that much more space.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I don't have that at this point in my life.
Yeah.
In 5 years from now, maybe, or 10 years from now, I might have that time to devote that. But I commute a long way to work. And I've got other things at home in life. I mean, maintenance in the yard and taking care of the dogs. So everything's got to be done, So expanding wasn't on the realistic list at the moment. So backscaling and focusing a little bit more on some of the stuff I'm more passionate about is what happens,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what you got to do. That's what you got to do.
I'm just there to take all y'all's overflow, baby.
You're just sitting there smiling.
Yeah, come on, just rain it
you
on.
don't come up with that male yellow rat snake. You get anything else?
God,
don't worry. It's happening. It's happening. Hopefully by Daytona, I'll be able to bring.
I'm probably gonna have to just come out here and catch my damn own and just say that I wouldn't have caught it without you.
Yeah, there you go.
You just ditch all of them and just get rhino rats.
Dude,
hey, I bred those 25 years ago. 20 years ago. I bred them 20 years ago.
Don't talk.
They're cool. They're cool snakes. I like them. They're cool. They're cool. They're weird little snakes. They're cool.
Yeah.
Weird little snakes.
I think 03 Ophis are a little cooler than the rhino rats. What's up, Justin?
No.
What's up, Justin?
That's I don't know.
We'll talk.
I think I'll stick with the rhinos.
Hey.
Yeah, I'll stick with Belandrii. Those are kind of cool little things. They're cool little guys.
Aren't they Ganya Soma?
No.
No, not anymore. I don't think so. I don't remember what they are now because I haven't paid attention. Yeah, they're definitely not. They're not a Gonyosoma. I don't care what anybody says.
Say it louder for the people in the back.
I've kept both of those, and they're not a Gonyosoma.
Yeah.
At all. Very different animal. They should be by themselves, whatever the hell they want to call it.
They were Rhynchophus, and then they got put into Gonyosoma, and now it's like, why?
Yeah, that's a bad choice. Was it the same guys that did the Obsoleta project? Because
Probably.
sounds like some of the same crap.
Justin, I don't know if you've ever heard of a gentleman. He goes by the name of Dr. Zach Loffman, but you don't get to beat science without better science.
No, but Stevie Wonder can look at a rhino rat and true Gonyosoma and be able to tell you they ain't anywhere close to the same thing.
Aren't God, we're going on tangents. Anyways, I was going to say it. I'll say it off air. Gentlemen, we got any closing thoughts on this episode? What a damn good episode it's been.
Hell yeah, it's
Ladies
been a blast,
Island
man.
corns are awesome.
Go get yourself some Nerodia.
Jake's got to put that final Nerodia plug in there.
Yeah.
I can't argue. I can't argue.
I'm in the same
boat.
I'm not going to keep Nerodia because I've already got Pitchophis and I already got enough smell. But Nerodia are badass.
They really are. Don't get me wrong. They're one of those things that, like, I love them to death. I absolutely love my Nerodia, but I'm about capped out on them. Just because of, like, the variety and the fish, and they're just freaking psychos when it comes to food. Like, they're great. I love mine to death.
Then lay off that stinky fish and feed more pinks, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I need to start feeding more.
Give me them citrus ones.
No,
female.
man.
I don't even want the little one. Just give me the bigger one.
There's 3 of them. I have a male and 2 females.
Well, give me one of the females.
No.
Come
They're
on.
mine. No, those are like, dude, those have legit become like my favorite water snakes. Like those citruses they're great, man. I love them to death. But the Ponchatulas smell like 2-day-old feet that were left in the sun and were pissed on.
Look, I'm always going to tell you, Pictoventris is the best of any of the 3. Confluence is the worst all day long.
Oh, dude, they are. Oh my God, they're musk. I'm telling you, it's different. I've been musked on by more banded water snakes, and I can shake a stick at. But those broadbands, it's a new level, man. I've never gagged from snake musk before until I opened my holding tub with these broadbands in it. It was so bad.
Welcome to the Nerodia hour,
dude. The Dixies, all the normal bandits. I can deal with it, but those.
I love seeing Jake's hand.
You guys can't tell,
ridiculous,
but
man.
He's like screaming.
Yeah.
Sorry.
As far as Nerodia,
I get a text from my wife saying, "Tell Jake to stop."
Yeah, I really do love Rompefers.
Rompefers are cool. I kept them for a while. They get big. We have them here locally. We live on the eastern end of the range here where I am, and they're impressive animals. They're impressive. They're cool. For me, it got to be more of just like I was always drawn to more of the variability that I see in Fasciata, even within very specific creeks in the same area. And it's a species that was a common species for me growing up with in Florida that has just kind of always taken over for me. Made it more interesting, I guess, maybe for me, because there's so much to learn with the ontogenetic change and how some of these different phenotypes and stuff pass on and carry on through the generations and how they develop. It's just, I don't know, just keeps me fascinated.
Damn it! This is a
Nerodia files. Nerodia files.
Nerodia files. Oh,
I still see the tape going over the CornStars signage. It's just gonna say Nerodia
files. We'll have to send those guys over to do a collection spotlight or something.
You could start your own Nerodia podcast that can be on THN, and then you guys can knock yourselves out.
Yeah. so that Zach can listen, and probably Aaron Morris will listen too. Yeah. And that's probably it. Nobody else will.
Connor Wardle would listen to it.
Yeah, Connor will too. Yeah, he'll definitely get to that.
And this is probably the only podcast he doesn't listen to.
Yeah.
Of course.
Andrew Rosidi will get on board too. He'll definitely listen to it.
Legit, I'll still listen to it. I'll still be like, this is great. All right. Any closing thoughts from you, gentlemen?
No.
Locality talk. Anything wrapping up?
Keep it pure. Keep it honest.
Your locality.
South Carolina corns, best in the world.
South Carolina corns, get them Okitis.
I got a lot of them.
It's the Mecca.
There's babies all over the place of them, man. They're badass.
Yes, sir.
All right. This show was brought to you by Silent Hill Reptiles, who does not have Nerodia. But they do have some awesome corns that they're going to be posted for sale soon. Check out their website, silenthillreptiles.com. And then BlackBox cages. Also, I guess if you want to keep Nerodia in them, you can. Some people do for whatever reason.
Keep them in the racks. It works great. I'm telling you.
You'll see them on the video soon when I finish the collection tour that we shot at Jake's place the other day. Whenever I get around to actually being able to finish that, probably this weekend. I'm gonna shoot to get it done. It's a lot of editing.
Yeah, that was
Jake says a lot.
I didn't realize how long
you
that
never
was, man.
You never realize how many times you do, because I'm guilty of it too. Until you're like editing it, and you're like, oh my god, like did I even get a concise thought out?
No,
like,
dude, I'm all over the place, man. I don't know what it is.
Well,
when there's a camera in front of me,
we
it's
had no
like
plan. It was just like cool, go, and then it was
yeah, that's me on like a normal basis, anyways.
Yes.
So whatever.
Where can people hunt you down, Sir Montross?
At Darkhorse Herp on Instagram, and my Facebook page, Darkhorse Herpetoculture on Facebook, and like if you want to, Chris Montross on Facebook, but I don't use that a whole lot unless I'm like going places and doing things. I don't really post my herp stuff on there because I have that page to kind of keep that all focused on.
Pain Scab?
Badlands Herpetoculture on Instagram, or just Chris Paint Shop on Facebook. Message me. I love talking. Everybody that's ever messaged me is shocked at the fact that I will fucking not stop talking. We have Janai coming out soon, ready to go, probably in 3 to 4 weeks, and lots of corns coming out. The O3 officer are already all called for, and I have gargoyle geckos at the ass because the gargoyle market crashed. Hit me up. The first 2 people to message me get free gargoyle geckos as long as you pay shipping. I don't give a fuck. I need to get them out of my house. Literally.
Did you end up selling that blue motley pair?
I did. Oh yeah, I had that blue motley pair available. It sold once I put them up on the Facebooks. Not that we allocate selling animals on Facebook, but yeah, that's one thing. You know, again,
once you showed them off, somebody inquired about them and they found a new home.
Yeah, they found a new home. Really happy with where they went. The gentleman that bought them was very excited about them. Blue Motleys. I do want to make one slight correction to one thing that Justin said. The reason they're called Blue Motleys is not actually because they have that kind of blue tint to them. They're called Blue Motleys because they look like they're in shed at all times. It looks like they're in blue. Even when they're in shed, you can't tell they're in shed other than their eye caps. It's kind of weird. So that's a European line of it's the morph combinations of dilute, anery, and motley. And cool snakes. Wasn't in love with that morph. That morph combination is really neat. Beautiful snakes, but just kind of
so beautiful he couldn't wait to get rid of them.
Yeah, they kind of no, but I mean, I lost money on them selling them. But well, if you include what you cost to feed them to raise them up, it's just about adults. But it's a weird animal. It looks, I don't know. I work with ghost stuff. I work with charcoal stuff. I work with charcoal pewter stuff. And the blue motley combo. Some people are really into it. I think it's because as hatchlings they're just amazing looking, and as they become adults, it just wasn't my cup of tea. And happy to pass them on. Like I said, the gentleman at the bottom, he's kick ass, and it sounds like we're probably going to be friends for a while. Because that's what I do to everybody that messages me. We're best friends forever. So.
We're the three
except
best friends
except I'm the bestest friend.
Could have. What about you? Where do people find you?
Palmetto Coast Exotic.
6969.
Palmetto Coast Exotic on Instagram. Oh God!
What is happening?
Fuck.
Chris, your shit went crazy. You're muted. Oh, okay. Edit this out.
I'm muted. Why?
That was crazy.
There we go.
Also, I could not hear you guys for a minute, but.
Woo. Woo.
It went crazy.
Yeah.
That'll wake people up.
But yeah, you can find me at Longleaf Reptilia on Instagram, Facebook, and you can add me on Facebook if you want. It might take me a few days to actually accept it because I don't get on Facebook like at all, or I get on Instagram to post and message Chris and Chris, but
doesn't talk to me.
I see you every week. You don't talk to me either. It takes 2 to tango. Get the fuck out of here.
He doesn't talk to you because you don't keep your radio.
Yeah, exactly. You're not cool.
Damn, Justin,
you got those snotty downloads.
Damn right.
All right. Thanks for having me on, y'all.
We'll see you later. Have a good evening.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Later.
Later.